Bhakti Rasayan, the nectar tonic of pure devotion. A series of lectures spoken by Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, compiled by Shriman Prem Vilas Prabhu. Introduction, written by Prem Vilas Prabhu. At the beginning of the second part of Srila Sanatana Goswami's Sri Brihat Bhagavatamrita, Jaimini Rishi explains to Jamani Jaya how, after having heard the description of Narad's quest, which comprises the first part of this exalted scripture, Parikshit Maharaj's mother, Uttara, said to her son, "My heart cannot be satisfied if those devotees who, being indifferent to any other sadhan and sadhya, desire only Radha Dasyam, and who perpetually sing Nam Sankirtan and are immersed in prem for her, attain residence in merely the same Vaikuntha as so many other devotees do. This is a matter of great sorrow, but I cannot tolerate that this may be the final destination for devotees like Sri Nandaraya and Sri Yasoda. There must certainly be a suitable abode for them, which is superior to Vaikuntha. If there is such a place, then please describe it and deliver me from this doubt." This is from the Brihat Bhagavatamrita 2.1, 21-22. Parikshit Maharaj replied, "Although I could satisfy you by answering your question with the words of the Shruti and Smriti, instead, by the mercy of my Guru, Sri Shukadev Goswami, I will first relate a historical narration which will dispel all your doubts. Then I will speak those essential verses of the scriptures." This is from the Brihat Bhagavatamrita 2.1, 34-35. Then, after hearing the incomparable story of Gop Kumar, which comprises the second part of the Brihat Bhagavatamrita, Janamejaya said to Jaimini Rishi, "Fearing that these descriptions will now come to an end, my heart is feeling great sorrow. Therefore, now please give me such potent nectar, by hearing which my heart will be fully purified for all time." Jaimini replied, "O my child Janamejaya, your father, Sri Parikshit, feeling transcendental pleasure upon describing the glories of Golok, next sang with wonderful and sweet bhav numerous shlokas from two great epics, which are the very essence of the Shrutis and Smritis. With great happiness I wander in this world, singing these verses, thereby mitigating the pangs of separation from your father which I feel." Then Jaimini Rishi went on to quote 4 verses from the Brahma Samhita and 59 verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which collectively have come to be known as Bhakti Rasayan, the nectar tonic which stimulates Krishna Bhakti. This present volume of lectures, which Srila Narayana Maharaj spoke originally in Hindi, comprises his commentary on 28 of these verses, which are the very essence of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. In gradation, these verses glorify the devotion of the different classes of devotees in Braj, culminating in the superlative bhakti of the Braja Gopis. I offer pranam, time and time again, unto the lotus feet of the foremost of Rasik Vaishnavas, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, who has given us such wonderful explanations of the nectar tonic which Parikshit Maharaj gave to Uttara, Jaimini Rishi gave to Janamejaya, and Sanatana Goswami gave to the inhabitants of this world. These lectures were completed on September the 12th, 1994. Tridandinam Bhakta Sharomanim Cha Shri Krishna Padabja Dritaika Hridi Chaitanya Lilamrita Sarasaram Narayanam Tvam Satatam Prapadye. I offer repeated pranam unto Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, who is the crown jewel of devotees among Tridanti sannyasis, and who always keeps in his heart the lotus feet of Srimati Radhika and Krishna. He especially keeps in his heart the very essence of the nectarian truths for which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enacted his pastimes. Chapter 1. The earth becomes fortunate. In the final chapter of Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita, after the story of Gop Kumar had been completed, Sanatana Goswami has quoted verses from the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which Parikshit Maharaj spoke to his mother Uttara. They are verses of very beautiful poetry, which stimulate the sentiment of bhakti. Stringing these verses together, Sanatana Goswami has composed a necklace for the benefit of the sadhaks of this world. And when sadhaks keep these verses in their hearts, it is as if they were wearing this necklace around their necks. And if, while taking Harinam, they sometimes call out these verses, it will increase the anand in their chanting. This compilation of verses is known as Bhakti Rasayan, or the nectar tonic of Bhakti Ras. When the material body becomes weakened by illness and one is unable to eat anything, by drinking some tonic, the digestion and the pulse again become strong. Similarly, in the realm of bhakti, for those in whom intense hankering for Raganuga Bhakti has arisen, the verses in this final chapter are like nectar tonic. In the bhav of Kamala Manjari, Bhaktivinoda Thakur prayed, Prabhu, I am not performing bhajan so that you will remove the worldly misery which is strangling me. I am not praying at your feet for entrance into the heavenly garden of Nandankanan, where one can enjoy with beautiful women for a very long time. Nor am I praying for liberation, so that I will never again have to suffer for 9 months in the womb of a mother, and never again be punished by the messengers of Yamaraj. I pray that in the core of my heart you will increase the bhav of Vrindavan, where you are roaming with the gopis and enjoying amorous pastimes. In meditation on the descriptions of these pastimes, I will at once become completely lost in prem. This is what I am praying for. I am praying that I may take birth as a gopa or gopi, or even as a peacock or tree, or anything, anywhere, within the 64 square mile Brajamandal. There I will acquire the company of a Rasik devotee, who being full of the bhav of Vrindavan will describe all of these pastimes to me, and then my life will be meaningful. When sadhaks study and learn these verses, deeply meditating within themselves on their meanings while taking Harinam, they will act as stimuli to fully experience the bhav described in the verse above. Then one's mind will not wander here and there. We should not just walk around talking to others while chanting, but taking the mala we should sit in a solitary place and give it our mind and heart. Our previous acharyas chanted all night long, meditating on one shloka after another. For half an hour, the waves of the bhav of a particular shloka would be coming to them. Sometimes they would be fully submerged in those waves. Sometimes they would rise to the surface and float on those waves, and then they would move on to the next shloka. As they did this more and more, the whole night would pass, and where it went, they wouldn't know. This is the traditional method of bhajan. Through these verses, Parikshit Maharaj is making the bhakti of his mother steady and strengthening her determination for Gopi Bhav. And through these same verses, Sanatana Goswami is nurturing us. There is a blend of so many different bhavs in Vrindavan, but in the end, applying some polish to these sentiments, he emphasizes Gopi Bhav. There are many verses here, and they are all beneficial to the cultivation of bhajan. To develop and strengthen this bhav within us, we will study these verses in sequence, and from this endeavor, intense hankering for this bhav will certainly arise within us. Danye yam adya dharani trina virudas tvat, pada sprisho druma lata kara jabim rista, nadyo daya kaga mriga sadaya valoke, gopyon rantena bujayo api yat spriha shri. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:15-8 and Brihat Bhagavatam Rita 2:7-107. Sri Krishna said to Balaram, "Today this land, along with all its green grass, has become fortunate due to receiving the touch of your lotus feet. And receiving the touch of the fingers of your lotus hands, the trees, creepers and bushes consider that they have attained the greatest treasure. Receiving your affectionate glances, the rivers, mountains, birds and animals are all feeling fully gratified. But most fortunate are all the Brajagopis who have been embraced to your strong chest, a favor which even Lakshmi Devi herself always desires." This verse describes the time when Krishna is at the junction of his Bhoganda Leela, ages 6 to 10, and Kishora Leela, ages 10 to 16. At this time, his full beauty and charm are becoming more apparent, and his limbs are filling out. He would feel shy if he were to remain naked at this age. Now he enjoys taking the cows out to graze and jumping about and creating mischief with his friends. At this age, his form is like a bud which is beginning to open. It has not yet become a flower, but it is gradually opening and becoming more charming. Previously, no fragrance came from the bud, and no bee would have been hovering around it. But as it opens more and more, the fragrance begins to come, and there is nectar available to the bee. When it spreads out and becomes fully mature, it means that Krishna has reached the Kishore age. Now that Krishna and Baladev have become a little older, their forms have become very charming. Their feet have also become bigger. Previously, they were thin from heel to toe, but now, like ripe bananas, their feet have become big and very soft. And whereas before the soles of their feet had yellowish complexions, now they have begun to take on a reddish hue. Now Krishna has become a little clever in speaking. Instead of always speaking directly, he has learned to speak in a roundabout way. These are all symptoms of this age. His newfound cleverness in speech is evident in his speaking of this verse. To avoid praising himself, he uses the presence of Baladev Prabhu as a pretext to express his feelings. Because at this age, he has become a little intelligent. He realizes that he should never praise himself. Praising oneself is like committing suicide. Here he wants to describe how Vrindavan is more glorious than any place within the three worlds, and even more glorious than Vaikuntha. He begins by saying that the earth is fortunate. Why is the earth fortunate? Because of the presence of India. Why is India so glorious? Because of the presence of Vrindavan. And why is Vrindavan so glorious? Because of the presence of the Gopas and Gopis. Why are the Gopas and Gopis glorious? Because amongst them are Krishna and Radha. And why are they glorious? Because of the mutual prem between them, and that is our highest objective. If not for the amorous prem of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, then all of our endeavors would be meaningless. It is prayed for again and again by the topmost devotees, and Radha's prem is so glorious that it overpowers Krishna himself. But he doesn't describe all of this directly by saying, I am the supreme ornament which beautifies Vrindavan, because he is now entering his Kishore age. When speaking, he knows how to keep this bhav hidden and how to skillfully reveal it. Together, Krishna and Balaram are taking the cows out to graze, and upon seeing the beauty and splendor of the Vrindavan forest, at once Krishna becomes overwhelmed with emotion. What is the meaning of Vrindavan? It means the forest of Vrinda or Tulsi. There are many other wonderful trees and plants found there, but the Tulsi tree is primary. It can also mean the forest where Vrinda Devi is the queen. Why is she known as the queen of Vrindavan? Because she arranges amorous meetings between Sri Radha and Krishna. Another meaning of Vrinda is group, meaning groups of cows, gopas and gopis. And Avana can mean one who nourishes and protects. So Vrindavan can also mean the ones who provide stimuli, who nurture and increase the prem of Sri Govinda and the cows, gopas and gopis. More meanings have been given, but these three are primary. As Krishna was speaking this verse, he was remembering his own pastimes, and waves of bhav began to flow inside him. As he was going along with his friends, the ananda he felt knew no limits, and he said, My dear brother, today Prithvi Devi, the earth, has become fortunate, and the hairs of her body, which are the grass, creepers, vines and trees, are standing on end in ecstatic rapture. The grass, creepers and vines, receiving the touch of your lotus feet, and the trees being touched by your hands as you pick fruits and flowers, have today become fully gratified. The rivers, mountains, birds, deer, and all other animals, receiving affectionate glances from you, have today become especially fortunate. But the most fortunate of all are the gopis, who have received what even Lakshmi Devi herself desires, being embraced between your two strong arms. From the very beginning of creation, Prithvi Devi has been serving Bhagavan. Whenever he desired to assume an incarnation, he would descend on this earth and grace the land with his footprints. Varaha held the earth on his snout, and at that time Prithvi Devi became his wife, and from them a son, Narakasura, was born. And the earth is always in contact with Bhagavan's form of Shesha, as he holds her on his head. From time immemorial, she has been receiving such good opportunities. But Krishna tells Balaram, today, by receiving the touch of your feet, the earth has become especially fortunate. Why? Because you are now at the junction of your Poganda and Kishora ages, and your lotus feet are especially soft, and such a nice fragrance is coming from them. You move along the earth like an intoxicated baby elephant. Has the earth ever received such an opportunity before? Today the earth has really become fortunate. Here, someone may point out that at that time Krishna had been in contact with the Vrindavan forest for only 10.5 years, whereas Sri Ramchandra wandered in the forest of Dandakaranya for 14 years. In bare feet, he also walked the entire distance to South India before entering Lanka. So did Prithvi Devi not become as fortunate then as she did during the Krishna Leela? But Ram was banished to the forest, and when in the last year of his exile Ravan kidnapped Sita, he wandered here and there crying in anguish. Therefore at that time Prithvi Devi certainly became fortunate from the touch of his feet, but she must have also felt very sad. She really became fortunate when Krishna came in an immensely beautiful form. With a peacock feather in his crown, he would smile as he was decorated by his mother in the morning, and then accompanied by Sridham and Subal and the other Sakhas, he would take the cows out to graze and jump about with the calves. Just as the young offspring of a deer playfully jump about, he would go along with all of his friends with a happy heart. Picking flowers with their own hands, they would make garlands and decorate each other. And arriving at places like Kusum Sarovar, Radha Kund and Shyama Kund, they would enjoy pastimes which were saturated with ras. With special care, Krishna would string one garland which was not meant for any of the Sakhas, and feeling great happiness as he thought of whom he would place this garland on, he tucked it away. Who can estimate the great good fortune of those flowers, being picked and made into a garland by Krishna's own beautiful hands? When in the evening he would place that garland on a certain devotee, he would feel supremely blissful. Did any of this happen in Ram Leela? There was constant heartbreak in Ramchandra's pastimes, but in contrast in Krishna Leela there was so much carefree happiness. In the same way as we may caress one person whom we love and lovingly slap another, Bhagavan has touched the earth in different ways in his different incarnations. Ramachandra touched the earth, and Nrsingadev also touched the earth. Assuming a fearful form, Nrsingadev appeared, and being extremely angry, he killed Hiranyakashipu. All of the residents of the heavenly and lower planetary systems were petrified with fear, and at that time the earth did not experience great Anand. But when Krishna touched the earth in such a beautiful form, she really became fortunate. The rivers, especially the Jamuna, also became fortunate. At that time, Manasi Ganga was also a river, though now it is in the form of a kund, and it also became fortunate. He would lovingly glance towards the rivers, because there he would sport with the gopis and sakhas. The river would make a sweet sound as they flowed gently, and bees would be hovering around the blooming lotuses. The soft breeze would carry the fragrance, and the entire scene would be so beautiful. Through the bestowal of his affectionate glances, he would also shower the nectar of his kindness upon the hills and mountains, because near them were very attractive kunjas, where there would be very beautiful grass, and on the pretext of taking the cows to graze, he would go there. Sitting on the large rocks with his friends, they would decorate one another. The kunjas, such as the ones near Kusum Sarovar, were very beautiful, and there he would enjoy with the gopis as well. This verse describes 4 benedictions: receiving Krishna's affectionate glances, receiving the touch of his feet, receiving the touch of his hands, and being embraced by his arms as the gopis were. When Krishna would be taking the cows out to graze, from hidden positions the gopis would lovingly glance at him, and then he would glance towards them with such affection that it would immerse them in remembrance of his sweetness. In the same way, he would glance towards the different birds and animals, and from this they also became fortunate. Sometimes a peacock, being maddened in bhav, would come near him, and he would gently stroke it with his hand. Sometimes he would call a parrot, and when it flew onto his hand, while stroking it gently, he would teach it to speak, and then listen to what the parrot said back. The calves would also receive the touch of his hands. Very young calves, perhaps only a few days old, forgetting the company of their mothers, they would jump along as they accompanied Krishna to the forest. As they proceeded further and further, they would become fatigued. So Krishna would take them on his lap and massage their legs with great prema. He would speak sweet words to them. Tell me, how much good fortune did those calves possess? He would also take the sakhas on his lap and stroke them. And in this way, Subal and others received the touch of his hands. Considering the diverse sentiments of the residents of Vrindavan, he touches them in different ways. When Krishna takes the cows and his friends to drink from and sport in the rivers have one type of sentiment. And when he goes there, with the gopis they have a different type of bhav. Receiving the touch of Krishna's feet, the rivers swell in anand. The trees have the sentiment of sakhas, and they receive the touch of both Krishna's hands and feet. The cows have the sentiment of being his mother, and the calves have the sentiment of sakhas. The creepers have the bhav of sakhis, and when he picks flowers from them, it is as if he is teasing a gopi with his touch. The gopis also receive the touch of Krishna's lotus feet. Yatte sujatat charanam buruham staneshu Bita shanai priyatadimahi karkesheshu Tenata vimatasitat vyatatena kimsvit Kurpadibi brahmati dir bhavadayusamna. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:31-19. O dear one, your lotus feet are so soft that we place them gently on our breasts, fearing that they will be harmed. Our life rests only in you, and therefore our minds are filled with anxiety that your tender feet might be wounded by pebbles as you roam about on the forest path. The gopis are arguing with their own minds. Their minds are saying to them, "Why are you worrying about Krishna? There is no necessity." But from deep within their hearts, from their very Atma, the gopis reply, "We are upset because Krishna's feet are very soft, and we are afraid that they will be pricked by thorns and pebbles. We desire that he should never feel any pain." The mind replies, "Is Krishna blind? He has eyes, doesn't he? He can see where to place his feet while walking." Hey mind, the calves run here and there, and do they only go to safe and smooth places? They run near the mountains, rivers and jungles, and they also have hoofs which protect them from sharp objects. But if Krishna goes to such places, his feet will be burned by the hot sand or pricked by thorns and pebbles. O mind, you have no intelligence. The mind replies, "But in Vrindavan there are no such thorns and pebbles. Everything here is Vishuddha Sattva. They appear to be ordinary thorns, but it is as if they were made of rubber. Will rubber thorns prick your feet? They give a very soft touch to Krishna's tender feet when he steps on them, and the pebbles are softer than butter. By the influence of Vishuddha Sattva, Prithivi Devi has decorated her landscape with these soft and golden pebbles, so Krishna will never feel any pain." In this way, they were arguing with their minds. The gopis receive the touch of those feet in the Rasa Lila, a benediction which even Lakshmi Devi desires, and Brahma is also meditating on those feet. Ahushcha te nalina nava padara vindam Yogeshwar kridi vichintyam agada bodai. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:82-48. Such great storehouses of knowledge as Brahma, Shankar, the Kumaras, and Shukadev Goswami are always trying to remember Krishna's lotus feet, but only with great difficulty do those feet appear in their meditation. Responding to Krishna's teasing with jealous anger, the gopis say, "You have instructed us to meditate, but realization of you really comes even in meditation of the most highly learned devotees. We want you to come back to Vrindavan. And those feet which are being meditated on by so many, we desire to play with them directly. What to speak of holding them within our brains in meditation, we desire to hold them close to us. Meditation will not satisfy us, so we won't do it." They desire to receive the touch of his feet while they are decorating him, and then they will also receive the touch of his feet. But in the end, they will receive the benediction of being embraced between his two strong arms. Krishna will be touching their feet also when they exhibit man, jealous anger, and he is trying to appease them. Then everything is reversed, and Lakshmi also desires all of this. So in this verse, when Krishna says, "Bhai, my dear brother, today the earth has become glorious," he is simply using the presence of Baladev Prabhu as a pretext so that the sweetness of Krishna himself, the sweetness of the gopis, and the glories of Vrindavan can all be specifically described. And why has Vrindavan become glorious? Because in that place, the grass and creepers receive the touch of Krishna's feet. Its vines and trees receive the touch of his hands, and its rivers, mountains, birds, and animals received his affectionate glances. But above all, Vrindavan is especially glorious because of the presence of the gopis, whom Krishna himself serves. Thus ends Chapter 1 of Bhakti Rasayana. Chapter 2. The peacocks dance to Krishna's flute melody. After preparing lunch for Krishna Chandra and Baladev, Yashoda, along with Nanda Baba, follows them for a great distance as they take the cows out to graze for the day. Finally, after bidding them farewell for the day, they return home. After cooking for Krishna, Srimati Radhika and her Sakhis return to Yavat. As Radhika's Sakhis sit near her, each of them in their own specific parties as Tatashta, neutral, Swapaksh, belonging to Radhika's own party, and Surid, friendly, they all begin to meditate on Krishna. They become deeply spellbound, and when he sometimes appears in their internal vision, they become enthralled in Viraras. Seeing how Radhika is especially immersed in Viraha Ras and oblivious to all external considerations, the Sakhis call out to her and bring even more remembrance of Krishna's pastimes to her by speaking this verse. Vrindavanam Sakhi Bhavo Viranoti Kritam Yadevaki Sutta Padambuja Labda Lakshmi Govinda Venum Anumata Mayur Nityam Preksyadri Sanvaradyi Samasta Sattvam. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:21-10 and Brihat Bhagavatamrita 2.7-108. O Sakhi Radhe, Vrindavan is more glorious than even heaven, Vaikuntha, and even more glorious than Ayodhya and Dwarkapuri, because it has been graced with the footprints of Devaki Sutta. And only in this Vrindavan are the peacocks dancing in rhythm to the flute melody of Govinda. Hearing the sound of the flute and seeing the peacocks dancing, all of the birds, animals, and other living entities have become stunned. Here, Devaki refers to the other name of Yashoda. So in this verse, Devaki Sutta means Yashoda Nandan Krishna, and his footprints are beautifying Vrindavan. When Akrura and later Uddhav went to Nandagram, they saw these footprints everywhere. Seeing them, Akrura fell down to offer pranam and rolled on the ground, and crying profusely said, "Today I am so fortunate to have the darshan of Krishna's lotus feet." Playing very deep notes on the flute, Govinda enters the forest near Govardhan. Immediately, all the peacocks approach him, making a keka sound, and they say that he appears like a dark rain cloud. Because he uses the end holes of the flute to produce very deep notes, his playing of the flute is like thunder, and his yellow cloth is like lightning. The peacocks become maddened, and forming a circle around Krishna, they begin dancing with great bhav to the flute melody. Hearing the sound of the flute, all sattva, meaning all living entities, become stunned and abandon their usual course of activities. Animals such as tigers and bears even abandon their violent natures. Sattva can also mean that everything in the spiritual world is Vishuddha Sattva, comprised of pure spiritual energy. There is not a touch of mundane Sattva, Rajas or Tamas in that realm. There are so many objects in Vaikuntha, and they are all Vishuddha Sattva. Especially it is known as the essence of the Hladini and Sangvit potencies combined, which is found in the hearts of the eternal Ragatmika devotees there. If greed arises in the heart of a jiva for the sentiment of those devotees, and he performs bhajan, following in their footsteps, then when even one molecule of their devotion reflects into his heart, it can be called sattva. There are three kinds of sattva: Vishuddha Sattva, Sattva, and Mishra Sattva. Mishra means mixed. Mishra Sattva exists within the conditioned souls, Sattva within the liberated souls who have not yet developed bhakti, and Vishuddha Sattva within the dharma of Bhagavan's eternal associates. Here, with some jealous anger, the gopis are revealing the feelings of their hearts. All of the animals, birds, insects, and everything in Vrindavan has become fortunate. In an independent way, Krishna is bestowing his touch on everyone and everything in Vrindavan. When he climbs the hills, his feet are placed here and there, and even the trees and flowers are receiving his touch. But there is no possibility of us receiving this benediction, and therefore in Vrindavan we are the most unfortunate people. As we mentioned before, there are thorns in Vrindavan also, but before Krishna steps on them, they become softer than butter. Experiencing the touch of his feet, they melt in divine bliss. With jealous anger, the gopis are saying, "As of yet, our hearts have not yet become similarly melted in Krishna Prem. Therefore, if we could become thorns or blades of grass in Vrindavan, our lives would then become successful. For us, there are so many obstacles. We are not able to go before him and touch his feet and speak with him. We are not able to fan him or serve him in any way during the daytime. There are so many restrictions upon us, but there are no such restrictions whatsoever for all the other living entities of Vrindavan. If we were to become blades of grass, or thorns, or vines, or ponds, or the dust of Vrindavan, we could receive his touch, but in this form it is not possible." Here, In expressing their jealous anger, they are describing the good fortune of the land of Vrindavan. They go on to say that Bhagavan is also present in heaven, in a form with thousands of heads, and in other forms also. Although he is also present in these forms, they are partial forms. All incarnations are not equal. These incarnations, which possess more of Bhagavan's qualities, potencies, and rasa, are superior. Krishna, Ram, and Nrsimha possess more of these in comparison to other incarnations, and are therefore known as Parivarshta avatars. But of these three, Krishna is Avatari, the source of all incarnations, and the very basis of all rasa, Raso Vaisa. So, because he is sporting there, Vrindavan is the most glorious place. In his commentary on this verse, Sanatana Goswami says that Krishna played Mridu Mandra on the flute. What is the meaning of Mridu Mandra? When rain clouds begin to gather, the sky at once becomes dark, and very softly and slowly thunder comes. When the clouds clash violently, it produces loud thunder and lightning also. But at first they produce a very soft and deep thunder, and that is called mandra. Krishna produced a similar sound on the flute, but with mridu, sweetness. The nature of the peacock is such that when it sees the sky darkening and hears thunder, it begins dancing madly. When Krishna entered the forest, what did he see? Giriraj Govardhan, resplendent with creepers, blooming flowers and ripe fruits. The breeze was blowing very gently, seemingly unable to carry the full weight of the flowers' fragrance. Seeing this natural splendor, the desire for enjoyment arose in Krishna, and he played the flute very softly. Hearing this deep vibration, the peacocks went mad, dancing in rhythm with their tail feathers fully spread out. Then all of the animals, birds and insects of Vrindavan congregated in the meadows of Govardhan to witness the performance. The peacocks thought, "He is playing such a beautiful melody, and dancing to that we are feeling great anand, but we have nothing to offer him in return." After professional actors enact some of Bhagavan's pastimes, they place a murti of Krishna or Ramchandra on a plate and approach the audience for contributions. Seeing that others have placed some money on the plate, everyone feels obliged to give something. There is some intimidation or psychology used in this method. But when someone wants to give of their own free will because they genuinely appreciated the performance, they will reach in their pocket, and no matter what note they first pull out, whether it be 2 rupees, 5 rupees or 10 rupees, they will immediately give it. So one of the peacocks was thinking, "I have nothing valuable to offer him, no golden necklace around my neck or any valuable ornaments. I am simply an animal, but the feathers of my tail are very valuable. There is nothing in this world which can compare to their beauty, and upon seeing them, everyone becomes pleased. With their 7 colors, they are so attractive, so is there any reason why I shouldn't offer one to him?" Therefore, he left behind one of his feathers. Seeing it, Krishna thought, "This peacock is very loving. He has fully appreciated my flute playing and offered me one of his valuable feathers. There is nothing artificial in this offering." Lifting the feather up and placing it on his head, he thought, "Just as the flute is dear to me, this peacock feather has now become dear to me. While walking, resting, dreaming, standing or sitting, I will never abandon it. Wherever I go in Braj, I will never abandon the flute or this peacock feather." This is the origin of the peacock feather, becoming Krishna's most celebrated ornament. The peacock saw, "Oh, I left that feather for him, but he didn't merely put it in his pocket, he has placed it on his head. the most valuable of all his bodily parts. Today my life has become completely successful. If we desire to offer a gift to our Guru, to the Vaishnavas or to Bhagavan, but upon receiving it they were to say, "What need do I have for this? I have millions of good quality things," we would feel pain in our hearts. But instead they accept it and say, "Oh, what a beautiful thing you have brought me." And then we feel very pleased. Similarly, Sudama Vipra brought Krishna some uncooked low-grade rice, and honoring his offering, Krishna snatched it away from him, saying, "Oh, such a nice snack you have brought me." And even though it was uncooked, dry and tasteless, he immediately chewed it up and said, "Rukmini and Satyabhama have never offered me anything this nice." Hearing this, how did Sudama Vipra feel? "Today I have become fully gratified." So the peacock saw that he had offered Krishna such a trivial gift, yet Krishna had taken it and placed it on his head. Then Krishna played the flute with so much prem that he became maddened along with the peacocks. Before in this verse, Anumata referred to the peacocks becoming intoxicated, but it can refer to Krishna as well. Then he played the flute with even more prem, and the peacocks became more maddened. Krishna also became more maddened, and in this way there was competition between them. If someone offers something with prem, and it is also accepted with prem, then both parties become the tasters of that prem, and that is precisely what happened. While Krishna was playing the flute in this way, and the dancing was going on, all of the sattva, meaning the birds and animals, became motionless and watched and listened. But don't consider them to be like the birds and animals of this world. The birds and animals of Golok are all Vishuddha Sattva, and there is no trace of tamas, rajas, or material sattva in them. Even when the jiva becomes very elevated, perhaps just before liberation, still there is some trace of material sattva in him. But in this world, most people are tamasic, which means they are affected by lower attributes such as hatred, envy, anger, and the cheating propensity. Then there is rajas, which is characterized by intense greed for enjoyment. So even when sattva comes, at first it will be mixed with tamas and rajas. In the case of Harishchandra Maharaj, he gave away a great amount in charity, which is sattvic, but it was mixed with rajas. Karna was very charitable, always spoke the truth and did good to others, which are all sattvic qualities, but he was affected by anger, envy, and the tendency towards violence, so it was mixed with tamas. Bharat Maharaj showed affection for an animal, which was sattvic, but still it was not Suddha-sattva. Only after the jiva attains Swarup Siddhi and will imminently enter into Vastu Siddhi can it be said that he is in Vishuddha-sattva. Bhagavan and all of his devotees in Vaikuntha, whether they are peacocks or monkeys or whatever, are situated in Vishuddha-sattva. In order to watch Krishna playing the flute and see the dancing of the peacocks, many other birds gathered in groups on the branches of the trees of Govardhan. Below in the forest, the deer were also watching, but with their eyes closed as if in meditation. How could they be watching if their eyes were closed? By sanchari, which means they were internally experiencing the particular sthayi bhav or permanent sentiment that they were situated in. There were a great many species of birds and animals watching from the meadows of Govardhan, and they all displayed the natures of munis. Govinda Venum Anumata Mayur Nritam. The name Govinda comes from the words Go and Indate. Go means the gopas, gopis, cows and calves. It can also mean Veda, Brahmana, Gyan, the senses, and many other things. Indate means Indra, which means master. So Govinda means the one who increases the anand of everyone in Braj by the notes he plays on the flute. Hearing this divine sound, all living entities forget their normal course of activities. At this time of the day, the birds generally make different sounds in their chirping, such as checha and kala rava. But all these activities stop, and everyone forgets even their own bodies. This is the meaning of avaratanya. In this way, everyone stands motionless, just listening and watching, thinking, "Aho, this can only be found in Vrindavan. Bhagavan is also present in Vaikuntha, but there the sound of the flute cannot be heard. In Ayodhya and Dwarka, one won't see peacocks dancing like this. This can only be found in Vrindavan and nowhere else." Vitanoti means that Vrindavan is more glorious than heaven or even Vaikuntha. There Krishna exhibits 4 special qualities: Rupa Madhuri, Venu Madhuri, Lila Madhuri, and Prema Madhuri. The especially sweet love which his companions in Braj have for him. Because Govinda is playing the flute there, the splendor and glories of Vrindavan are being proclaimed as the best of all. How did Krishna appear to the peacocks as he was playing the flute? He had the peacock feather placed in his crown. He was standing in his 3-fold bending posture with his right foot wrapped around his left. Seeing this, at once the anand of the peacocks increased. Krishna was adorned with a gunjamala, which also included kadamba flowers and tulsi manjaris, which hung down to his knees. A mild fragrance was coming from it, and bees were swarming around it. He was wearing bracelets on his wrists, and on his limbs were paintings of spiders. In this way, Nandanandan was decorated in his forest attire, and was holding the flute, which had been called his dear Sakhi, in his hands. He will never abandon it. It always remains with him. Sometimes, for increasing the waves of Leela and for the pleasure of the gopis, he enters a kunja and falls asleep. Knowingly, he allows the flute to hang loosely in his hand. He is not really sleeping. And seeing him from a hidden position, and thinking that he is sleeping, the gopis say, "Now we should take that flute." Then Radhika says to the other gopis, "Who is prepared to do it? If he awakens, he will grab you." Then everyone becomes afraid. In pretending to be asleep, Krishna certainly has some special intention. If there is any person who can take the flute, it is Radhika. All the gopis propose that she do it, and she agrees. Smiling and watching him very carefully, she approaches stealthily like a cat. Standing over him, she looks carefully to see if he is really sleeping or not. Then she snatches the flute and quickly leaves the kunj. Then Kundalata comes and scolds Krishna. "Your everything is gone and you are sleeping." Getting up and looking around, Krishna says, "Hey, where is my flute gone?" Very perturbed, he says, "Who took it? Did you see who took it?" Then he approaches the gopis as if he knows nothing and says, "Have you seen my flute?" In this way, he knowingly allows the flute to be taken in order to taste some special rasa. Otherwise, he would never abandon it. In the Brahma Samhita, it says that the flute is his Priya Sakhi. The vibration of this flute can melt anything, even rugged mountains, and it is also capable of entering devotees' bodies and stealing their hearts. If the flute were not there, then so much of his Leela and Vilas would be meaningless. Such is the importance of the flute. Being held to his lips, it drinks the rasa there and becomes intoxicated, inspiring the gopis to say in the Venu Gita, "This inanimate stick of bamboo is relishing that which is our property, the nectar of your lips." In the verse we are explaining here, the name Devaki Sutta has been used. Once, Devaki Sutta, Dwarkadish, went to the heavenly planets. Brajendrananda and Krishna didn't go there. Dwarkadish went there to acquire the Parijata flower, to appease the heart of Satyabhama. And approaching Indra, he said, "Bai, you are always very affectionate towards me. Therefore please give me one Parijat flower." When Indra refused to give him even one flower, Krishna uprooted the entire tree, and sitting along with Satyabhama on the back of Garuda, prepared to leave there. Indra and the demigods tried to stop him, and after defeating them, he returned to Dwarka and planted the beautiful Parijat tree in Satyabhama's garden. This was Devaki Sutta, Dwarkadish Krishna, who bestowed the touch of his feet on the heavenly planets. But there you won't find peacocks dancing. He doesn't play the flute there. If there is anything to be found in his hands there, it will be the conch shell and disc. He didn't play the flute there or exhibit the 4 special aspects of sweetness which are found only in Vrindavan. Therefore the fame of Braj is greater than that of the heavenly planets, Vaikunta or Dwarka. In Vaikunta, Lakshmi receives the touch of Narayan's feet. Narayan is an extension of Krishna, who possesses all 6 opulences. But the 4 kinds of Madhuri are not present in Vaikunta. There you won't find the peacocks dancing to the melody of the flute. Therefore, when the word Devaki is used in this verse, we can understand it to be another name for Yashoda, because it is Vrindavan Krishna, or Govinda, who played the flute. And when he played the flute, all living entities forgot their normal course of activities and stood silently and motionless listening. How did the gopis hear the flute and witness the dancing of the peacocks? Sitting in their homes, they heard and saw it all in meditation. They said, "Look, the peacocks are descending to the meadow to dance to the melody of Krishna's flute, but can we go there? We also desire to sing and dance with him, but there are so much restrictions upon us. Our elders are watching over us, so it is not possible for us. Therefore, we are greatly unfortunate." Thus ends Chapter 2 of Bhakti Rasayan. Chapter 3. The best of all those who are known as Haridas. In the next verse, the gopis glorify Govardhan Hill, which is not only the crown of Vrindavan, but the crown of the entire universe. Hantayam adrir abala Haridas avaryo, yad Rama Krishna charana sparsha pramodaha. Manang tanoti saha go kanayas tayo yat. Paniya suryavas kandara kandamulai. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:21-18 and Brihat Bhagavatamrita 2:7-109. This Govardhan Hill is the best of all those who are known as Haridas, because he is feeling great jubilation from the touch of the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram. With great respect, Govardhan is worshipping them by providing all their necessities, such as caves, fruits, flowers, and water for their pleasure, and for the pleasure of their cowherd friends, cows and calves. Vrindavan is glorious, because there Krishna is playing the flute in the meadows of Govardhan, and the peacocks are dancing and becoming stunned. All of the birds and animals are listening and watching. The gopis say, Hantayam, which means they are expressing their feelings of sorrow. But there is so much anand in it. They are disappointed because they cannot have the darshan of Krishna and externally join in the festivities. Yet they are feeling increasing anand as they experience it all internally within their meditation. We are abala, devoid of strength. Why? The female deer go near Krishna with their husbands following behind them, and there is nothing in the world to restrict them. For us, everyone is an obstacle. Our husbands, mothers-in-law, fathers-in-law, brothers and friends. And what is the greatest obstacle of all? The restrictions which exist in our own minds. Our fear of being disgraced in society. Therefore, we are abala. Prema Bhakti is something which is anugatya. Without the mercy of the Guru, it can never be attained. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Bando Mui Savadhana Mate. The lotus feet of the Guru are the sadma, the shelter. For that Shri, the Prema Bhakti for Krishna, which exists in the heart of that Guru. This is its source. If one does not have devotion for the Guru, does not serve him, and is not surrendered to him in all respects, then bhakti will never come. Unless one attains his mercy, he will never experience bhakti, and will never receive the darshan of Krishna. Therefore, here the gopis are saying, Saki, for a long time we have been desiring to meet with Krishna, but our feet are unable to go there, our eyes are unable to see him, and our hands are unable to touch him. In our helpless condition, we cannot attain his darshan. The birds and the deer and everyone else is allowed to receive his touch and serve him, but we are not. However, nearby is Giriraj, who is Haridasavarya, the best of those who are Haridas, and he is Guru Tattva. If we surrender to him, if we go to him and offer puja to him and serve him, then certainly we will receive the good opportunity to serve Krishna. This is the very nature of Guru. Sakshat arvitre na samasta shastre, yuktas tata bhavyata eva sadbi, kintu prabhu ya priya eva tasya, vande guru shri charanarvindam. Shri Guruvastikam 7. The Guru is the one who is especially dear to Krishna. All jivas are dear to him, yet by serving and receiving the mercy of such a Guru, who can actually overpower Krishna by prem, we can meet him. Otherwise we can't meet him. All devotees performing parikram of Govardhan should visit the mandir of Haridev. If one performs the entire Govardhan parikram without first taking darshan of Haridev, then he will not receive the full benefit of his parikram. So the gopis are saying, on the pretext of bathing in Manasi Ganga, we will first take darshan of Haridev. Then we will go to Giriraj Govardhan, where the desires of our hearts will be completely fulfilled. Our desires will be completely fulfilled because somewhere on top of Govardhan, Krishna is taking the cows to graze and playing with his friends. There we will be able to receive his darshan, to receive his touch, and to freely mix with him. This is the main objective of our lives. This should also be the main objective of our lives, meeting Krishna and attaining Krishna's service. Solely for this purpose, we are practicing sadhan. Ultimately, the sadhan and sadhya, goal of bhakti, are one and the same. For instance, there is Shravanam. What will we hear? Bhagavat Tattva, and especially Maya Tattva. We must understand this well. That which we are seeing now, and which we are attached to, due to our selfishness, will only bring us unhappiness. Until we surrender to the feet of the Guru and follow the sadhan which he prescribes, we are just following the advice given to us by our own minds. When we take exclusive shelter of the Guru, He will save us from our own independence. Then we should empty our hearts completely and accept Guruji's order and act accordingly. We must make our hearts one with Guru and the Vaishnavas, and one with our previous acharyas, like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. If we keep our hearts separate from them, then Maya will certainly snatch us. If we don't surrender our independence to them, then we will only act according to our own desire. We should depend solely on them. As they instruct me, I will do. I will apply all of my intelligence to carrying out their orders. Then we will be successful. Otherwise, bhakti, which is chinmaya and has its own independent nature, will not come easily. Therefore, here the gopis are saying, by thousands of our own efforts, we will never overcome the obstacles which prevent us from meeting Krishna, such as fear of our elders and adherence to the regulations of Varnashram Dharma. They will only be overcome when we attain the mercy of Giriraj. And those of us in the stage of sadhana should never leave the company of that Vaishnava who is actually qualified to be followed. So many distractions may come, but we should never leave him. This is the instruction number 1. According to his desire, we will move, and then we will surely progress upward in the kingdom of bhajan. But if we listen instead to the dictates of our minds, we will descend into rasatala. What kind of things does the mind tell us? Look, take good care of your body, remain comfortable, and endeavor only for that happiness which is easily obtained. And following these instructions, we will become trapped in the reactions to our enjoyment and suffer. Therefore, instead we should honor the instructions of Guru, the Vaishnavas, and the Shastra. Like the gopis are saying in this verse, we are abala. We have no vitality in our association with sadhus. If we are living in a temple, but we never speak to anyone, and we don't have love for both Guru and the Vaishnavas, then what will happen? We will become isolated and discouraged. Lovingly we should speak with them, ask questions, attentively listen to the answers, and have a mood of mutually offering and accepting with them in all respects. Without them we are abala, we have no spiritual strength. Prachinanam bhajan amutalam duskaram shrinvato me naishrasyena jvalati hridyam bhakti leshasyasa. Stavamala. How did previous great personalities obtain their most cherished objectives? For 60,000 years, Kasyapa Rishi and Aditi stood on their hands and went without eating, drinking, and even breathing. After performing such severe austerities, Narayana appeared and offered them a boon. Kasyapa Rishi said, "We desire a son like you. We desire a son like you. We desire a son like you." And Narayana replied, "Where will you get a son like me? Therefore I myself will come as your son." And because he had asked 3 times, Narayan became their son in 3 separate births. We can see what severe austerities Hiranyakashipu performed to obtaining only material things. For acquiring his own planet, Dhruva Maharaj performed very severe austerities. Someone offered Sanatana Goswami a quilt, but fearing that it may make him sleep more, he said, "Burn it." But on the contrary, what are we doing? With great pleasure all day we are eating, sleeping, joking, laughing, quarreling, and in the midst of all this we take a little Harinam. Relatively easily we can rid ourselves of our worldly attachments, but that rare prem which we are aspiring for will not come if we are going on like this, always thinking, "How will I meet Krishna?" Once Bhagavan gave Narad his darshan and then immediately disappeared, and Narad began crying profusely. Why did he disappear? Inside you there is not sufficient eagerness. Therefore I have come to increase your eagerness for attaining my association. In your present form, you cannot always remain with me, but when your eagerness to be with me becomes sufficiently intense, you will automatically shed your present body, and then you will always be able to see me. But our bhajan is not filled with eagerness and intensity. If our hearts are not completely melted, we will never meet Krishna, so there is only one hope. We are standing on the shores of the ocean of your kindness, and if even one drop of that ocean falls on us, then our lives will become meaningful. Our only hope is that sometime or other we will meet him. Therefore, if we are fortunate enough to acquire the company of a real Vaishnava, we should stay with him and adopt his ways, hoping that one day we will receive the direct mercy of Krishna. The gopis are saying, we are abala, because our feet are unable to take us to Krishna. Thousands of people will see us and say, where are you going? Or they will say to our parents, where is your daughter going? She has become a disgrace to your family. It is like this in modern times also, when a family member begins to engage in bhajan. If a son or daughter drinks or smokes, goes to the cinema, or keeps illicit connections with the opposite sex, then the family members think nothing of it. But if someone leaves everything for bhajan, they say that he or she has become a disgrace to the family. If a sadhu hears about this, what will he say? Because he has taken up bhajan, he has become the lamplight of the family. And hearing of this, that person's forefathers, whether they are in Pitriloka or wherever, will begin dancing. Now a devotee has appeared in our family. The gopis are saying that Haridasa Varyo, Govardhan is the best of those who are Haridas. He in whom Krishna invests all of his good qualities is called a devotee of Bhagavan, and that person is Haridas. 3 personalities have been referred to as Haridas: Yudhisthira Maharaj, Uddhava, and Giriraj Govardhan. Yudhisthira Maharaj has 3 types of relationships with Krishna: in Vatsalya Bhav, Sakya Bhav, and Dasya Bhav. He serves Krishna in these 3 sentiments according to the necessity. He loves Krishna in the same way as he does Arjun and Sahadev as a younger brother. As Krishna's friend, he jokes and laughs with him, and by considering that everything he possesses, his kingdom, wealth, wife, sons, is for the service of Krishna, he acts as his servant. After Krishna had left Hastinapur, Yudhisthira Maharaj felt that his kingdom no longer had any value. But as long as Krishna was present there, he felt that all of his property was for the service of Krishna. Whenever Krishna desired to leave there and go to Dwarka, Yudhisthira Maharaj would approach Kunti and say, "My dear mother, he will not listen to me, but he will listen to you. Please speak to him." To Draupadi he would say, "He won't listen to me, so you just let some tears fall from your eyes. He won't listen to me because I won't cry, but by crying a little you will capture him." Then because she started crying, and Kunti cried also, Krishna would not go. In this way, sometimes implementing some trickery, he would serve Krishna. Even Rasik Vaishnavas like Narad pray to Yudhisthira Maharaj, "You are Haridasa." Accompanied by his queens, Krishna comes to your palace, and so many sadhus also come. The sadhus come because they want to experience the glories of Krishna. But I have not come for that reason. I have come for your darshan. Your prem is so elevated that it even overpowers Krishna. Uddhava is Krishna's minister, friend and servant, and he even performed the function of a Priyanam Saka when he delivered a message from Krishna to the gopis. There is Purna, complete, which is Yudhisthira Maharaj, Punata, more complete, which is Uddhava, and Purnatam, most complete, which is Giriraj Govardhan. In whichever rasa Krishna desires to enjoy, Giriraj Govardhan is ready to serve him. In the Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya and Sumadhurya rasas, Govardhan makes the suitable arrangement for Krishna and is therefore known as the best of those who are Haridas. Knowing this, the gopis are saying here, we will go to Giriraj, offer puja to him and serve him, and then we will attain darshan of Krishna, taking the cows out to graze. In his commentary on this verse, Sanatana Goswami explains that the gopis were thinking, we have no strength when it comes to tolerating all of the obstacles which prevent us from meeting Krishna. We are sitting in our homes, and if any other disturbance comes, we can hold our patience. But for meeting Krishna, we cannot hold our patience. But if we were to abandon it, what would happen? All would be destroyed for us. We know that Krishna has taken the cows out to graze, yet for us to go there would not be proper. If we were to go, then our mothers-in-law, fathers-in-law, and all the people of the village would criticize us. Therefore we are holding our patience. If we have any hope of ever receiving the company of Krishna, our fear of being disgraced in society, our fear of our elders, and our fear of transgressing our dharma must remain. Therefore, we are abala. We cannot abandon our patience. We don't possess the strength to do it. We are unable to go there. In this world also, these considerations exist. One would be afraid of the reaction in society if he were to leave his home, wife, children, and job to engage in bhajan. In our Krishna bhajan, our lack of strength is also an obstacle. We are very lazy. We are always thinking of our bodily comfort, and especially those who are grihastas have so many responsibilities to society and to their families which obstruct them. Soon after taking birth, Shukadeva Goswami left his home and entered the jungle. His father Vyasadeva was left crying, my dear son, my dear son. But Shukadeva didn't answer. Who answered him? Only the echo of the forest. His call didn't even reach his son's ears. If not today, then tomorrow or the next day, our eagerness for Krishna bhajan should be like Shukadev's, and then all our abala sentiments will go far away. When we really desire to overcome all the obstacles to our bhajan, where will we get the strength to do so? The gopis are saying, for this we will go to Giriraj Govardhan, because he is the best Haridas. Why? Because he doesn't just serve Krishna, but manam tanoti saha go ganayas tayo yat. Krishna has so many companions, and he serves all of them as well. He provides pure and fragrant water for the cows and sakas to drink, and for washing Krishna's feet. By providing all necessities, Giriraj Govardhan would offer respect not only to Krishna, but to his companions as well. Many people are engaged in Guru Seva, but few offer respect to the servants of the Guru. But when one performs the service of respecting the Guru's servants, the Guru is even more pleased. Similarly, many devotees are serving Krishna, but if someone serves Krishna's devotees and pleases them, then automatically Krishna will be pleased. Govardhan not only provides pure water, but beautiful soft grass as well. Eating this grass, the cows become strong and give ample milk, which satisfies Krishna. And for the sakas, Govardhan provides not only water, but all kinds of fruits, which simply upon being seen increases their happiness. Bananas, lemons, pomegranates, coconuts, and tal, which is especially fragrant. Govardhan also provided caves for the sakas when they became tired from tending the cows. On hot days, the caves would be cooling, and on cold days they gave warmth. And within these caves were kunjas with mirrors composed of jewels, where one could see his reflection. All materials for decorating oneself and others were available there, and in this way it also became a meeting place for Krishna and the gopis. Nearby are such places as Dan Gati and Dan Nivartan Kund, where Krishna and Radhika and her Sakhis took taxes from one another. So the gopis are praying, O Giriraj Govardhan, you are a witness to all of Krishna's pastimes. Please give us a place from where we can also witness his pastimes. Hearing these words of the gopis, a sadhak's hankering will increase, and he will think, when will such a day be mine, when I can go to Giriraj Govardhan with these sentiments of the gopis flowing in my heart? I also desire to witness Krishna's pastimes during the day. This desire is the aim and objective of our lives and the very pinnacle of bhajan. Thus ends Chapter 3 of Bhakti Rasayan. Chapter 4. The clouds, rivers and trees serve Krishna. If someone is inimical to Bhagavan, then they will have to go much suffering and be very unhappy. They will have to take millions of births in the material world and will never attain happiness in any birth. The jiva is a part of Bhagavan. His very intrinsic form is as a servant of Bhagavan. Abandoning this understanding, the jiva becomes opposed to Bhagavan and thinks, I am the enjoyer of this world, I am the master of everything, and everything has been created for my enjoyment. This is the illusion of the opposed jiva. When Krishna disappeared from the vision of the gopis, in divine madness they went searching for him. In reality, he is never far away from them. But on the contrary, we have made ourselves separate from him. If in our search for Bhagavan we have the same kind of eagerness that the gopis have, then we can meet him. But without such eagerness, we will never meet him. The gopis possess an extremely intense eagerness to meet Krishna. And if even of a fraction of that arises within us, then it can be said that we are really searching for Krishna in our sudden bhajan. But from where will this eagerness come? Krishna and Srimati Radhika both assume forms which is easily accessible to conditioned souls. For the purpose of bringing jivas towards himself, Krishna has become a Shaligram Shila, and his dearest one has become Tulsi. Krishna has also entered this world in the form of Giriraj Govardhan, and his dearest one has come in the form of Yamunaji. We can see how merciful Bhagavan is, so much so that he has made the arrangement for everyone to attain him. Govardhan is accessible for everyone and is fully capable of bestowing Krishna Prem. It has been said that he fulfills whatever desires people approach him with, and in this way has arranged a very nice trap for them. If anyone desires a son, wealth, to get their son or daughter married, a better job, or whatever, they can go to Govardhan, beg from him, and he will bestow those things. In this way, at first he slowly captures people by grabbing the end of their finger, and then he grabs the whole finger, next the hand, and finally he grabs everything. Those of you who have traveled on the trains in India have seen how they are very crowded, and how no seats are available. So after boarding the train, people first move near a bench, then place their hand on it, then spread their hand out a little, and then begin to edge their way in until they have squeezed themselves into a seat. In the same way, Giriraj, Guru and the Vaishnavas gradually bring the conditioned soul towards bhakti. Having become separated from Krishna, the gopis are thinking, Krishna is everything to us, so how will we meet him? We must get the mercy of a Vaishnava. And who are the best Vaishnavas? Yudhisthira, Uddhava and Giriraj Govardhan. And amongst them, Giriraj is the best. Going to Yudhisthira or Uddhava won't be fruitful. They cannot give us what we desire. Only Giriraj can give it. In this way, if we really feel that Bhagavan is our only necessity, we will have such eagerness. Then our eagerness will lead us to ask a Vaishnava, how can we meet Krishna? How can we overcome all our despair? This is where we recognize our necessity for a guru. For obtaining any material object, a guru is not necessary, but in spiritual matters, approaching a guru is necessary. Giriraj will give mercy, Yamuna Devi will give mercy, Vrindavan Dham will give mercy, and we should pray to all of them. Here the gopis, through the eyes of Vipralamba Bhav, in separation from Krishna, are seeing prem in all the residents of Vrindavan but themselves. This is the symptom of an Uttam Adhikari Vaishnava. There are 3 levels of Vaishnava. The first is the Kanishta Adhikari, and his symptoms are that even though he offers puja to the deity and accepts that the water of holy places and the water which has washed the deity is sacred, he does not detect the presence of Bhagavan within the hearts of other jivas. He considers the body to be the self and has no respect for the devotees of Bhagavan. He doesn't believe that the Guru knows all. He thinks that the Guru may possess more knowledge than he does, but that he certainly doesn't know everything. Therefore he feels that there is no real necessity of taking advice from the Guru. Upon not obtaining the material things which he desires from his practice of bhajan, he may become disgusted and even abandon his bhajan. The symptoms of a Madhyam Adhikari Vaishnava have been told to be that he has love for Bhagavan, he has friendship with other devotees, he is merciful to those who are faithful, and he remains indifferent towards those who are opposed to Bhagavan. He wants to give mercy to everyone, but it is not possible to love everyone. It is inappropriate. One cannot show love to a snake or a tiger, they will only attack you. Therefore he behaves suitably towards others according to their qualification. The Uttam Adhikari Vaishnava sees the presence of his master in the hearts of all jivas and believes that they have all the same feelings for Bhagavan that he does. Prahlad Maharaj saw that his worshipable deity was in the hearts of all living entities, and that even the trees had the same feelings of Shanta and Dasyaras towards Bhagavan that he did. Similarly, the gopis saw their own sentiments sometimes within Giriraj, sometimes within the deer of Vrindavan, and sometimes even within the clouds. And they also saw that just as Krishna loves them, he also loves all the other residents of Vrindavan in the same way. Therefore, the Uttam Adhikari doesn't see anywhere in the world a jiva who is not engaged in bhajan and who doesn't have the same sentiment for Krishna as he himself does. Mama vart manu vartante manusya partha sarvashaha. Bhagavad Gita 4:11. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. The highest devotees really see that everyone is serving Bhagavan. Don't think that this statement is an exaggeration. The gopis actually see that, just as we love Krishna, all the trees, creepers, birds, mountains and rivers of Vrindavan are fully conscious and are serving Krishna. They are planning to go to Govardhan on the pretext of going to bathe in Manasiganga and having the darshan of Haridev, because nearby there Krishna is taking the cows out to graze, and then they will surely receive his darshan. In this way, with his eyes closed and taking Harinam, an Uttam Adhikari similarly meditates on the Leela of Krishna, especially his Astakalya Leela. Meditating more and more, eventually the object of his meditation appears to him, and he becomes absorbed in that flow. I am at Govardhan, and I am doing my service. When his vision begins to dissipate, he begins to lament, higher, higher. And here, as the day progresses, and the gopis are sitting in their homes and conversing, their absorption in the previous bhav begins to diminish, and one Sakhi says to Radhika, Drist vatape brajapasun saha rama gopai sancharyantam anuvainum udirayantam prema privrada udita kusam valabir sakyu vyadat sva vipusam buddha ata patram. Shrimad Bhagavatam 10:21-16 and Brihat Bhagavatamrita 2:7 verse 110. Seeing Krishna and Balaram playing their flutes in the afternoon sun and taking the cows and calves out for grazing, the clouds burst with divine love, and like an umbrella shield their friend Sri Krishna from the sun, while showering tiny drops of rain that are like showers of flowers. Now in the afternoon time, and taking the cows out to graze, accompanied by Baladev and the Gopas, Krishna has entered the forest. Desiring fresh grass to eat, the cows grazed on and on until they reached the rocks of Govardhan. The rocks were very hot in the afternoon sun, and the sand and soil below their feet were also very hot. Thinking that the cows and his friends were feeling some pain due to this, Krishna played the flute in such a way that at once the clouds gathered and began to shower soft rain. In India, there are many ragas which are well known for producing different effects. Once there was a guru named Haridas Ji, who was a master of ragas. He had two disciples named Baijubavar and Tansen. Tansen was a singer in the court of the king, and it was his policy that if anyone came to Delhi to sing, they were obligated to challenge him in the royal court, and if they were defeated, they would have to face punishment from the king. Hearing this, Baijubavarya went to Delhi and began skillfully singing different melodies, and a large crowd of people gathered to hear him. The news of this reached the king, who said, "Who is this person daring to sing here? This is a great insult to Tansen." So he called for Baijubavara and said to him, "You must have the proper qualification, otherwise you are not allowed to sing in Delhi." Baijubavara said, "All right, we will have a competition. Where will it be held?" The king replied, "It will be held in the royal assembly." "Then who will decide the winner? Who will decide whose singing is the sweetest and the most beautiful?" The king replied, "All of my queens here will decide." "No, I can't trust them. I want the animals of the jungle to make the decision, and then I will accept it. The queens will all certainly be prejudiced. Therefore, we should go to the jungle and see whose singing pleases the animals most." "All right, so it shall be," replied the king. The entire assembly went to the jungle, and first Tansen sang. Then Baijuvarya sang. The groups of deer immediately gathered there. These deer became so absorbed in his singing that he reached over and placed a flower garland around the neck of one of them. Then as soon as he stopped singing, all of the deer ran off again very quickly. Baijuvarya said, "If Tansen is a better singer than me, then he should call all of those deer back with his singing, and once they are again absorbed, he should reach over and retrieve the garland." Tansen stood and began singing, and he sang with such effort that he was perspiring heavily, but still the deer didn't come, and he couldn't retrieve the garland. Then Baijubariya sang again, and this time even more deer came, and once again became absorbed in his singing. With one hand he reached over and took back the garland, and then when he stopped singing, all the deer ran off again. In previous times there were singers and musicians like this, who could also produce effects like bringing rain or even starting a fire without the use of any matches or other things. Therefore we can scarcely conceive of the effects Krishna's flute playing is capable of producing. After entering the forest, Krishna played the flute in such a way that it bewildered everyone, and the clouds saw that our friend has come. We should show some respect to our friend. Why was this friendship between them? Because they were of the same shyam color. The afternoon sun had made the rocks and the soil underfoot very hot, and when Krishna played this particular raga on the flute, wherever the sakas and cows were standing, they became stunned and just listened. And the clouds began to gather in groups, but they didn't only come for Krishna. Wherever there were gopas, cows, or calves standing, the clouds desired to render service, and they covered the sun with their own bodies like an umbrella. As they rendered this service, it increased their prem, and tears of joy came to their eyes. These tears took the form of cooling drops of rain, and they fell softly from the sky like an offering of flowers. The gopis are saying, "These clouds are so fortunate, we cannot be equal to them. We cannot render even a little service to Krishna. No one is as unfortunate as us." Sadhaks should also feel like this. Everyone is serving Krishna, but I am not. If a sadhak feels this way, then he will surely make progress in his sadhana. Otherwise, if he sees the faults in others, then all of those faults will in return come within him. Therefore we should never see the faults in other devotees, but should always make an effort to recognize only their good qualities. Nadyas tada tad upadhyaya mukunda gitam avarta lakshita manobhav bhagna vega alingana stagitam urmi bujai murare Tridanti pada yugalam kamalo paraha. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:21-15 and Brihat Bhagavatamrita 2:7-111. O Sakis, when the rivers of Vrindavan, headed by the Jamuna, hear the vibration of Krishna's flute, their currents completely stop, and their waters begin to swirl as if they are overcome with desire. With their arms in the form of waves, they reach out to touch and offer lotus flowers to his lotus feet. This verse describes the sentiment of elevated devotees, but they may not even come to all elevated devotees. They are exclusively the sentiments of the gopis. So why have they been given in the Bhagavatam? These verses are there for the benefit of those sadhaks who have a similar type of hankering as the gopis do. By remembering these verses more and more, someday, in some lifetime, this beautiful bhav of the gopis' eagerness to meet Krishna will enter their hearts. As the gopis are sitting in their homes, one bhav arises within them, and then, as it diminishes, another immediately arises. This is called bhav shabalya, where one bhav is fully relished and then another comes. The meaning of this verse is that as the gopis were looking towards the Jamuna, they said, "O Saki, hearing the flute song of Mukunda, the river is carrying all the lotuses like gifts in her thousands of arms and offering them as pushpanjali to Krishna's feet. The waves of the river have stopped flowing, and a whirlpool has been created. This whirlpool is a symptom of Manobhav, the river's prem for Krishna. Who is the husband of Yamuna, Manasi Ganga, and other rivers of Braj? The ocean, because they all flow towards him. But these rivers don't flow easily towards their husband. But the best of these rivers is the one who is the dearest to Bhagavan, Kalindi, she who springs forth from the Kalinda mountain. Kalindi is the one whose water, from receiving Krishna's touch, or from the anjan of the gopis, has assumed Krishna's shyam color. Having had her heart stolen by the sound of Krishna's flute, the waves of her bhav were like her hands. And taking a gift of lotuses in her hands, she offered them at the feet of Krishna. Kamalaparaha, which means lotuses, can also mean Lakshmi, which means splendor. What is the splendor of a river? The lotus. So it can also mean taking that splendor and offering it to Krishna's feet. The waves have been said to be Kalindi's long arms. And there were not just 2 of these arms, but thousands and thousands of waves surrounding Krishna's feet. Why? For grasping his feet, so he wouldn't be able to go away from there. In this way, after offering a gift of all her splendor, the lotuses, she submerged Krishna's feet in her waves, as if grasping them, thereby placing them in her heart. The gopis are saying, how can we go and grasp the feet of Krishna in this way? We are very afraid of being disgraced in society, and therefore we cannot go. We are unable to abandon our present circumstances to meet with Krishna. But this river is indicating to us, you are unable to do what I have done. Being attracted by Krishna's flute, you are not able to leave everything. As I have stopped flowing towards my husband the ocean, and place all of your splendor at his feet. You do not have that much courage. You are so afraid of being disgraced in society. But we are unable to do it, and therefore if there is anyone in this world who is unfortunate, it is us. Having taken birth in these circumstances, we are unable to meet Krishna, to speak with him or to serve him, because we are always busy in our household affairs. But this river has abandoned everything, even its fierce flow, and embraced the feet of Krishna. It is the same for us. We are unable to engage in sadhan bhajan. In the same way as the river offered the gift of lotuses to Krishna's feet, we should offer our very hearts to Guru and the Vaishnavas. We may have everything, the association of Guru and the Vaishnavas, but as yet we have no such eagerness by which we can turn the tendency of our minds away from material enjoyment and exclusively towards Krishna. This is the message being carried by the river, and the instruction being given here through the medium of the gopis. Next comes this verse, Vanalatas tarava atmani vishnum, Vyanjayantya iva pushpa faladadya, Pranata bara vitapa madhu dara, Prema Christa tanova vivrasu sma. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.35.9 and Brihat Bhagavatamrita 2.7.112. Look how the creepers and the branches of the trees of Vrindavan are drooping down due to their weight. They must have also taken Sri Krishna within their hearts, because tears of love in the form of streams of honey are dripping from them, and the emergence of their fruits and flowers bear witness to their ecstatic rapture. The previous verses were all from Venu Gita of the Srimad Bhagavatam, but this verse is from the Yugal Gita. What is the meaning of Yugal Gita? The gopis are singing to each other concerning their separation from Krishna. In the Venu Gita, there was more purvarag, preliminary attraction. But here, after meeting with Krishna, they are speaking about their agitated state of vipralamba bhav. One who has such eagerness as the gopis are expressing here will be able to meet with Krishna and his dearest ones. The system for spiritual enlightenment is arranged by Krishna alone. Here someone may ask, there are so many jivas in the world, so are they all in Madhurya Ras? There are numerous devotees performing bhajan in the sampradayas of Nimbarka, Ramanuja and Vishnu Swami, and there are others, such as the Yavanas, who perform no bhajan at all. Why is it that they don't all come towards Madhurya Ras? The answer is that Bhagavan is so merciful that all the systems in this world are in his hands. According to a person's particular actions, a certain fruit is bestowed upon them. Every jiva certainly has a particular intrinsic rasa. 5 primary sentiments have been described: Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya and Madhurya, and every jiva falls within one of these categories. Yet from time immemorial he has been taking birth, dying, sometimes attaining the higher planetary systems, and then again returning here, wandering in all directions. Those who were more fortunate took birth in Satya Yuga, where most people worship Bhagavan through Shantaras, as the 4 Kumaras and the Narayana Rishis did. After this, Sri Ramachandra came and emphasized the glories of Dasyaras, and for preaching this ideal, Hanuman remained in this world after the disappearance of Ram. Then Krishna came at the end of Dwapara Yuga and gave prem even to the creepers. He performed such pastimes that simply by hearing and chanting about them, especially through the medium of Srimad Bhagavatam, a jiva could be attracted and gradually attain that bhav. But there were some jivas who were contemporary with Krishna yet could not understand his Leela. Shishupal, Kamsa, Dushashan and Jarasandha criticized this bhav. Oh, in Braj this boy of no particular caste has appeared. No one even knows for sure who his real mother and father are, and now he has become the king of Dwarka and will rule over us. In the Bhagavatam, it is stated that Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, and all bhavs are included in him. Yet the bhav he showed in Braj was not shown anywhere else. But very few people outside of Braj actually accepted that bhav at that time and just criticized him for it. For this reason, Krishna inspired Shukadev Goswami. You please manifest the shining sun of the Srimad Bhagavatam. No one else is capable. You are Leela Sukh, and you know all of our Leela. Then, on the pretext of Maharaj Parikshit being cursed to die by the bite of a snake bird, the Bhagavatam was manifest by Shukadev Goswami. But at that time, very few people were actually qualified to accept it. Then Sankaracharya came, then Ramanuja, then Madhava and other acharyas came and gave Dasyaras and maybe a little Sakyaras. Finally, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came with his eternal associates, and through the medium of the Srimad Bhagavatam validated that special Braj Bhav and gave prem to the world. Meeting the incarnation of Bhagavan who goes by the name Brajendranandan is the ideal which is being described in these verses from the Bhagavatam. The gopis, being extremely agitated to meet Krishna, have even forgotten their own bodies. Which Krishna are they desiring? Saka Krishna, the Krishna who is so dear to them. If anyone becomes similarly agitated to have Krishna as their own friend, son, or dear one, and goes to an elevated devotee and hears Harikatha from him, then easily he can attain Krishna Prem. Otherwise, there is no other way to attain it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself came and showed the way. And who was accompanying him? Swarup Damodar, Rai Ramananda, and Rupa, Sanatan, and Raghunath Das Goswamis. He bestowed all of his mercy on Swarup Damodar and Rai Ramananda by relishing Katha with them night after night. But he invested his Shakti directly into the hearts of Rupa at Prayag and Sanatan at Varanasi. Through them, this bhav was manifest in the world, and everyone was drowned in the ocean of Bhakti Ras. Before the appearance of Mahaprabhu, these things were not known. No one could even imagine them. Wherever Mahaprabhu saw a forest, he considered it to be Vrindavan. Whenever he saw a body of water, he took it to be the Kalindi. And whenever he saw an elevated land, he took it to be Govardhan. This is the bhav of an Uttam Adhikari. So in this verse, the gopis are saying, Aho, Krishna has continued on his way playing the flute, and it seems that all the trees and creepers and mountains of Vrindavan are revealing their hearts to him. The creepers have very large flowers, and the trees have very large fruits, and it seems that upon seeing Krishna, they have begun laughing in great ecstasy. The prema within them has manifested externally in the form of their ripening fruits and blossoming flowers. And when Krishna passes by them, those trees and creepers bend over, and those fruits and flowers, which are normally at the height of his head, are offered at his feet as Pushpanjali. And expressing their prema for him, there is an incessant flow of streams of honey emanating from them. But we are so unfortunate, we are unable to meet Krishna. These creepers and trees have so much prema for Krishna in their hearts, and it is manifesting in the form of all the fruits and flowers and streams of honey, which are like tears flowing from their eyes. But can we take any fruits and flowers to Krishna? What would people say? Because of our fear of being disgraced in society, we are unable to go. So maybe if in our next lives we assume the form of trees and creepers, then we will also be able to serve Krishna. Thus, the gopis are expressing these beautiful sentiments. Thus ends chapter 4 of Bhakti Rasayan. Chapter 5. Happiness in Separation. In appearance, the trees and creepers of Vrindavan seem to be ordinary, but upon seeing Krishna, they become overwhelmed in bhav. With great joy, they offered pranam to the feet of Krishna by offering their fruits and flowers, and they shed tears of love in the form of streams of honey. Even the plants and trees of this world have feelings. Like us, they are conscious. They are not able to express their feelings in words, but they can express them. Especially the trees and creepers of Vrindavan are all Vishuddha Sattva, meaning that they are superior to those of us situated in mixed goodness. So what won't they understand? They can understand and experience everything. Therefore, by offering their fruits and flowers in ecstatic rapture, they offer pranam to Krishna. In his commentary, Sanatana Goswami is saying that these trees and creepers are more conscious than the clouds. The gopis felt that all the other residents of Vrindavan were serving Krishna, but that they themselves were not. They saw that even the clouds were serving him by creating an umbrella above his head to block out the sun, and by showering cooling rain on him. So the trees and creepers were even more conscious than the clouds, and we can see their condition upon hearing the vibration of Krishna's flute and receiving his darshan. Concerning Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Narottam Das Thakur wrote, Pashu Pake Jure, Pashana Vidare, Sunijara Guna Gata. Upon witnessing the Leela of Mahaprabhu, the birds, animals and insects would melt in divine love. When Mahaprabhu was in Alalanath, upon hearing his crying, the stones were melted, and his footprints and imprints from where he fell unconscious were easily indented there. When Sri Ramchandra and Bharat went to Chitrakoot, upon feeling the mutual love of the two brothers, the stone there melted. When Krishna played the flute at Charampahari at Kamyavan, the stone melted, and he left 50 or more footprints there. These footprints are certainly his. They were not made by anyone else. So even stones, clouds, trees and animals can melt in emotion, but we have not yet become melted in emotion. We haven't yet developed the intense eagerness that I will certainly engage in Krishna bhajan. In the verse we began describing in the last chapter, we find the line Vanalatas Tarava, meaning the creepers and trees in the forest. But why have the creepers been mentioned before the trees? It would seem that it would be proper to mention the trees first because they are primary, and without them the creepers would have nothing to climb up. But the creepers are of the same gender as the gopis, and their sentiment is similar. These creepers are female, just as we are, and men don't have as much sentiment as we do. Thinking like this, the gopis first mentioned the word Lata in this verse, and then Tarava. They say Atmani Vishnum, which means he who is pervading everything, referring to Bhaktavatsalya Bhagavan. Vyan Jayantya means revealed in a special way to this Nanda Kishore, Yasoda Nandan, Krishna Chandra or Gopikanta. These creepers had a treasure hidden in their hearts, but upon hearing the sound of Krishna's flute, they immediately revealed it in the form of fruits and flowers. Bowing down to Krishna's feet, they offered the treasure of their hearts as pranam. There are two ways of offering pranam to someone. Someone who has very little faith will apathetically offer pranam with his hands only one time and then leave. But someone who has strong faith will bow down and offer pranam time and again with great love and humility. He will look towards his master with great affection, desiring his blessing. The trees offered pranam to Krishna in this way with great prem. Krishna came, they offered pranam, and even after Krishna left, they remained bowing down because there was so much prem in their hearts. Being submerged in the ocean of unhappiness of separation from Krishna, how did the gopis pass the day? After cooking for Krishna at the home of Yashoda and seeing that Krishna had taken the cows to the forest to graze, the gopis returned to their homes. And those Sakhis who are Svapaksh, belonging to Radhika's own group, remain with Radhika. When someone is happy, it seems to them that the whole day passes in a minute. So in separation from Krishna, how will the gopis manage to pass the day? It says here that they engaged in kirtan, singing these verses which we are reading. But did they pass the day in happiness or unhappiness? They were remembering the Leela of Krishna by describing it, and were revealing their inner feelings to one another. But were their feelings happiness or unhappiness? Hearing the descriptions of his Leela, they became absorbed and felt that they were actually seeing him. But when the excitement from that diminished, they were plunged into the depths of despair. For the gopis, happiness and unhappiness became one ocean. It says in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Vishamrita ekatra milana. Poison and nectar become one. I am not able to explain this in such a way that you will understand this, or even to fully understand it myself, because we are presently standing on the platform of Maya, wrapped up in material enjoyment. We cannot understand this. Then why are we hearing of it? It is like a coating of wax. If you are placing candles here and there, then a little wax will come off in your hand and create a coating. Similarly, if a sadhak reads, hears, and speaks about these topics, then certainly something will rub off. A little feeling of bhav will come. Then practicing sadhan more and more, after some time, this feeling will become so strong that it will never be interrupted. Here the gopis are mutually hearing and describing Leela Katha, and as remembrance comes, they are seeing Krishna with the eyes of bhav. It appears that they are suffering due to separation, but inside them is great happiness. Evam brajastriyo rajan Krishna Leela Nugayate Ramir Hasu Takchitas Tan Manasaka Mahodaya. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:35-26. O King, during the daytime, the ladies of Braj took pleasure in continuously singing about the pastimes of Krishna, and their hearts were fully absorbed in him. The ladies of Braj had offered their hearts to Krishna. We see in the Vana Vihara Gita and in the Venu Gita that the gopis are absorbed in supreme Anand. Even in separation from him, they remain happy by meditating on his pastimes. Yet in another place it is written that being very unhappy, they passed the day singing about his Leela. They took shelter of only one thing, singing about Krishna's pastimes. Otherwise they would have been unable to pass the day. So are the gopis happy as they sing about his pastimes or unhappy? It is harmonized in this way. If we see a person really crying and wailing in separation from Krishna, just as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, what feelings will arise within us? Will we think that, I never want to be like this? Rather, we will think that if even a small fraction of that bhav enters us, our lives will be completely successful. As peculiar as it seems, we actually desire to cry in this way. The verses in the Bhagavatam describing the crying of the gopis will be those most read by a Rasik devotee. In the Brahmara Gita, the gopis are in Vipralamba Bhav, and speaking to a bumblebee, they are expressing their suffering. It is a very sad thing, but devotees enjoy it very much. The Venu Gita, Gopi Gita, Yugal Gita, and other chapters of the Bhagavatam all focus entirely on the topic of separation from Krishna. Devotees find all this tasteful, even though they are crying. They like crying also. Therefore here happiness is included within crying, and the gopis are described in this verse as Mayodaya, experiencing a grand festival. Singing about Krishna's pastimes during the day, they were supremely happy. Meeting Krishna at night, they were fully gratified. And in meditation during the day, their minds raced after him as he wandered in the forest. This is the meaning of bhajan. If a devotee is absorbed in meditation on Krishna Leela, then that meditation is bhajan. How will I meet Krishna? So many lives have passed, and still I have not found him. Although externally that prem appears to be unhappiness, inside their meditation is immeasurable happiness. When Krishna leaves Vrindavan and goes to Mathura or Dwarka or at Nandagram or Uddhavkyari, the gopis are crying in sadness. Why won't they abandon their meditation on Krishna? Are they able to abandon it? Surya Das has written that the gopis placed Krishna's dust foot all over their saris and their limbs, and when the tears related to Krishna fell from their eyes and mixed with that, they became very dirty. But would any of them change their saris? So this meditation is actually full of happiness. But yes, externally it seems to be unhappiness. It is written in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that the happiness felt by one person meeting Krishna exceeds the happiness felt by the residents of millions of material universes combined. and the unhappiness felt by the residents of Vrindavan exceeds the pain caused by the most potent poison. Therefore, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have written in their commentaries that in this state of separation, happiness and unhappiness are the same. At the end of his explanation of this verse, Sanatana Goswami says that in this way, Krishna is the very embodiment of Paramananda. He is the Swarup of Ras. He is Sarva Shaktiman. He is all-pervading. He knows the mind and hearts of all, and he is the foundation of all rasa. He is both the rasa itself and the taster of ras. He performs pastimes which establish him as the very embodiment of Paramananda. There is no difference between Krishna and his Leela, just as there is no difference between Krishna and his name. Being merciful, when Leela sees that there is bhav in our hearts, then it will appear to us. By thousands of our own efforts, it will not appear. But when it is merciful to us, at that moment it will appear of its own accord. Just as Krishna is supremely independent, his Leela is also supremely independent. It will know if a recipient is qualified or not. If it sees that one's prayers is full of humility, then no matter what one's qualification may be, it will appear. It may appear in the hearts of qualified people like the four Kumaras, or in someone with a sinful background like Bilvamangala. Leela manifested in his heart, and Krishna himself came to help him walk to Braj and to listen to his sweet singing. Therefore, Sanatana Goswami is saying that just as Krishna is the very embodiment of Paramananda, so is his Leela. If one is simply hearing narrations of Krishna Leela, then for him there is no necessity of vairagya or anything of the kind. Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva, jivanti san mukaritam bhavadiya vartam. Stane stita shtuti gatam tanu van manobir, ye parisho jita jito pi asi tais trilokyam. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-3. Bhagavan is unconquerable by anyone within this world. Yet if someone faithfully hears Harikatha, even while remaining within his established social position, then the disease of lust and all anarthas will vanish from his heart, and he will overpower that unconquerable Bhagavan. Such is the potency of Leela Katha. But since this Leela Katha is Paramananda Swarup, then what necessity will the gopis feel to meet Krishna? Won't they be satisfied just by this? They won't be satisfied. Why? Sanatana Goswami gives his opinion that although Krishna and Leela Katha are one, the gopis won't be satisfied by just engaging in Leela Katha. Their prem is such that it can never be restricted in any way, and they will never be fully pleased, fully satisfied, or receive the full ruchi from only engaging in Leela Katha without meeting Krishna. They desire to enter directly into the Leela, where Krishna will express similar sentiments towards them, as he did in the Rasa Leela. Harikatha by itself won't satisfy the gopis, but a sadhak should always continue hearing Harikatha, understanding that the happiness which the gopis experienced while engaged in Harikatha was merely a manifestation of their indescribable happiness. It is written that when Leela Katha enters the ears of a sadhak, it enters his heart, snatches away all inauspiciousness, and makes his heart completely pure. Then it takes him to a place where he can relish a life of serving Radha and Krishna with the Sakhas and Sakhis. In this way, Krishna and his Leela Katha are supremely merciful. Next comes this verse. Ete linas tava yasho kila loka tirtam, gayanta adipurushan patam bhajante, prayo ami muni gana bhavadiya mukhya, gudam vane pina jayati anagatama daivam. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.15.6 and Brihat Bhagavatamrita 2.7.113. Sri Krishna said to Balaram, Hey Adipurush, although you are keeping your opulences hidden and are performing pastimes as a young boy here in Vrindavan, still the Munis, who are among the best of your devotees, have recognized you. Not wanting to be separated from you for even one moment, they have assumed the form of bees and are worshipping you by constantly singing your glories as the purifier of this world. Krishna and Baladev Prabhu have taken the cows out for grazing, and using the pretense of Baladev as a pretext, Krishna is actually praising himself in his speaking of this verse. Here he praises Baladev as being Adi Purush, but that is actually Krishna himself. He is describing so many of the glories of Baladev here, but they are actually his own glories. He says, the buzzing of the bees in this forest is actually the chanting of Vedic mantras. The bees are actually Munis, but in the form of bees they are glorifying you with poems and prayers as they follow you along. You are wearing a Vaijayanti mala, which is comprised of many different kinds of flowers, and tulsi manjaris also. There is nectar within these manjaris, so sometimes these bees are sitting on the manjaris, sometimes on the other flowers of the garland, and sometimes they are swarming around you, offering prayers. They are actually Munis, who after performing austerities for thousands of years have attained perfection. Being Munis, they are able to discern that you are actually the Adi Purush. Even though you remain hidden in your form as a young boy at the conjunction of the Poganda and Kishore ages. Therefore they are unable to abandon your company and are following behind you offering prayers. What is the nature of their prayers? There are so many different kinds of poems and prayers that can be offered to Krishna, but amongst them, which are the topmost? There are countless mantras within the Vedas, and their personifications pray, although we are the mantras of the Vedas, up until today we have been performing austerities for the purpose of attaining and becoming absorbed in the bhav which you share with the gopis. Please be kind and make that bhav arise within our hearts. There are so many types of prayers one can offer to Krishna, but if someone prays for the bhav of Braj, then he is more pleased, and especially if someone prays for the bhav of the gopis, that will please him the most. Grandfather Bhishma prayed, O Prabhu, out of friendship you are driving the chariot of Arjun, and your blood is flowing from the wounds made by my arrows. At this time I remember you in Vrindavan, as your soft body may be pricked by thorns, and blood is coming from those wounds. Seeing you in this condition, that bhav is coming to me. In Braj, Krishna's skin may have been pricked as he was playing with the sakas, but really Bhishma is remembering Krishna with his skin having been scratched by the gopis in their amorous pastimes. In describing that bhav, Sanatana Goswami has quoted that verse here in his commentary and given a very beautiful explanation. This kind of prayer is the topmost. If we pray, O Prabhu, Yashoda has scolded you and you are crying, I offer pranam to you in this condition time and again. Then Krishna will be pleased. And above that, if we pray, O Prabhu, you are very rasik. In Vrindavan, when the gopis are fatigued, you massage their feet and appease them. I offer pranam to you time and time again. Then there will be no need to say anything more. Being very pleased, Krishna will give himself to someone who offers such a prayer. He is more pleased by those who pray with this elevated bhav than he was even by the prayers of Lord Brahma. The descriptions of Krishna's Leela are referred to here as Akila Loka Tirtham. They are the saviour and purifier of the entire world. One may be purified by repeatedly bathing in tirthas, holy places, but hearing Harikatha from an elevated devotee will purify one for all time and make one qualified to purify others as well. Acting as Guru, this Leela Katha is the purifier of everyone, whether they are qualified or not by other considerations. It is the bestower of the knowledge of Bhagavan's glories, and the very thing that takes us across the ocean of material existence. Singing about Bhagavan's Leela will purify oneself and the entire world also. Holy places become very contaminated, and even begin to desire that sinful people will not bathe in their waters. But if someone hears Harikatha from Narad, will Narad ever become contaminated? Whoever asks him questions and whoever hears his answers will become purified. He is always singing the Leela Katha of Bhagavan, and sometimes even creates some pastime himself, such as when he went to Dwarka, accompanied by Uddhav, and the construction of Nava Vrindavan was arranged. He inspired many different kinds of pastimes, and then he sings about them. No one knows the glories of Leela Katha better than Narad. If anyone hears and chants such descriptions, especially the descriptions of Leela found in the Srimad Bhagavatam, then certainly Krishna, accompanied by his associates, will appear in that person's heart. Thus ends Chapter 5 of Bhakti Rasayan. Chapter 6. The Gopis desire to become birds and deer. After telling the story of Sri Brihat Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami is giving us some rasayan, some nectar tonic, which is especially for those who have been freed from the disease but who are still a little weak. By taking this medicine for some time, the body will again become strong, meaning that one will be able to progress in sadhan and one's prema bhakti will become steadfast. First, he treated our disease, but just curing the disease is not everything, because one still remains weak. After one's shraddha has increased and transformed into nishtha, progressing from there, he will face many anarthas. This nectar tonic is especially intended for those at this stage. If in a regulated manner one hears these final verses and then deeply meditates on them, his love for Bhagavan will surely increase. But if after hearing these verses one doesn't meditate on them, then at the time of taking Harinam, his mind will certainly be absorbed in thoughts of material enjoyment. While chanting, his mind will be unsteady, and remembrance of events from the life he led before he began to follow the path of bhakti will awaken inside him. Various kinds of sankalpa and vikalpa, attraction and repulsion to material objects will come to his mind, and he won't receive the full benefit of this nectar tonic. But if someone meditates on these verses while taking Harinam, then his bhakti will surely increase. This is the method for increasing one's bhakti. While we are dreaming, those things which occupied our minds, which we meditated on time and again while awake, come to our vision. Sometimes things which are completely unrelated appear in our dream. It is all scrambled, and there is not even any realistic continuity. If our minds are not controlled, then it will be the same when we take Harinam. For a certain amount of time each day, we all hear some Harikatha. But now consider what you are doing for all the remaining waking hours. If we fully meditate on Bhagavan during those remaining hours, then at all times the mind will remain absorbed in Him. The focus of our minds will be determined by what we think about during our waking hours. If for those hours the mind is pondering over sense enjoyment, such as what arrangements we have made for eating and drinking, and how we will solve all our worldly problems, then how will we be able to steadily think of Bhagavan? Will our minds remain steady while chanting from our daily hearing of perhaps only 1 hour of Harikatha? It will certainly be absorbed in what we have thought about during most of our waking hours. And even while sleeping, we will remember those same things. But if one remains in sadhu sangha, and during all his waking hours applies his mind to hearing Harikatha, reading the Shastra, engaging in Bhagavat Seva, and doesn't worry about any other problems, then his mind will remain steady. Therefore the sadhak who wants to elevate his mind should meditate on the pastimes described in these verses while taking Harinam. We should make this effort, pushing away the thoughts of experiencing sense enjoyment and collecting good quality possessions, and gradually, in due course, our minds will remain steady in meditation on Bhagavan's Leela. For this purpose, the Leela of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is supremely merciful and generous. When Mahaprabhu was in South India, he met with Rai Ramananda, and their conversation, the Rai Ramananda Sambad, is unanimously appreciated by all the topmost devotees of this world. If you read it, you will see why. There, with each sloka, they are unveiling the deepest of secrets, and while reading it, your heart will become so spellbound that you won't want to put it down. Therefore, while taking Harinam, we should meditate on these types of narrations from the Shastra. But if we are inattentive while taking Harinam, we will not be benefited. We should first try to attain Nishtha, and then Ruchi will come. After that, Ashakti will come, and we should try to transform that into Bhav. In the Leela Katha that we are hearing here from Sanatana Goswami, there are instructions for all levels of devotees. Those on the level of Shraddha will understand these verses in a particular way, and those who have Nishtha will understand them in a different way. Those in Ashakti will understand them in a certain way, and those who are in Bhav will understand them in yet another way. Speaking amongst themselves, the gopis said that when all the plants, trees of Vrindavan were trembling in the breeze, it was as if they were experiencing ecstatic symptoms, and that they were drooping down solely to offer their everything to Krishna as he passed by. A sadhak should also try to offer his everything to Krishna, and when he does, then it can be said that he is really engaged in sadhana. Then the gopis, remembering how the bees would sit on Krishna's garland of forest flowers and not leave him, and how they would sometimes swarm around him offering prayers. Next, the gopis describe how the birds are even more elevated, and how they reacted to the sweet melody emanating from Krishna's flute. There are birds such as peacocks, parrots, pigeons, and koals, which live on land. But first they describe the birds who reside on water. Sarasi sarasa hangsa vihangas, Charu Gita Hrita Chetasa Etya Harim Upasate Te Yata Chita Hanta Malita Drisho Drita Mona. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:35-11 and Brihat Bhagavatamrita 2:7-114. The gopis say, "It is very astonishing that Krishna steals away the hearts of the swans, cranes, and other water birds in such a way that they approach him, sit down and worship him with their eyes closed, and fully concentrate their minds on him." In this verse of the Yugal Gita, the gopis are saying, "Forget those beads. More intelligent than them are these birds who reside on the water." When Krishna arrived in the forest, what astonishing thing happened? Hanta means amazed, and being wonderstruck, the gopis are now marveling at seeing these birds. When the cranes and swans on the pond heard the beautiful song Krishna was playing on his flute, they became completely spellbound. Through the medium of their ears, they held Krishna within their hearts. Ordinarily, when they see someone, they immediately flee, but instead they quickly came near to worship Krishna. Upasata means worshipping with the mind, body, and words all at once. As long as a jiva is conditioned, he is not capable of performing real upasana. He can only be endeavoring for upasana, because it means being near Bhagavan in his personal presence. When we offer puja to the deity, it is called upasana. But is it really upasana? Where is the deity and where are we? We are conditioned souls and he is all-pervading, the solidified form of Satchit Ananda. Therefore, we are not able to really be near him. But when our hearts are pure enough and we attain a spiritual form, then we can go near him and it can be called upasana. But as long as we are conditioned souls, full of anarthas, we cannot really offer him archan. So from far away, these birds approached Krishna with yata chitta, their minds fully controlled. But in our present condition, our minds are not controlled. In meditation, there are stages of yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, dhyan, durvasmrita, and finally, samadhi. And when one has achieved this state, then his meditation can be called real upasana. So when those birds heard Krishna playing the flute and saw his exquisite form, they became yata chitta, fully self-controlled. This is one symptom of a sadhu. And two more are described in this verse. Milita drisho, they closed their eyes, and drita mona, they became silent. Ordinarily, they were always making their chirping sounds, but instead they became silent. Speech is the cause of so many faults. If someone speaks in a deceptive or unbeneficial manner, his mind will be contaminated and therefore become restless. But if one's speech is controlled, then he will never offend any Vaishnava. Fighting and quarreling, uncontrolled speech is the cause of all this. Therefore, in the Upadeshamrit, the first of all instructions given to us is Vacho Vegam. Our speech must be controlled. So here it says, Drita Mona. The tongues of the water birds, which ordinarily make so many sounds, at once became silent. If someone desires to engage in bhajan, then they should practice silence, which means not speaking anything besides Krishna Nam or Krishna Katha. Then it will really be sadhan bhajan. And also Milita Drisho. Those birds closed their eyes. They took a look at Krishna and then immediately closed their eyes. What does that mean? Through the medium of their eyes, they took Krishna into their hearts, and then they had no desire to see any worldly object. And yata chitta, remaining silent with their eyes closed, their minds became fully controlled. From looking here and there and speaking in an unregulated manner, one's mind becomes restless. For this reason, Bilvamangala plucked out both of his eyes and became silent except for speaking Krishna Katha. But without harming our eyes or tongue, we should simply control them, and then automatically our mind will become controlled. Here the gopis are saying, "This is a very astonishing thing. These birds, who ordinarily chirp day and night, have today become silent, and closing their eyes, they have taken Krishna into their hearts. Now automatically their minds have become controlled, and they have no remaining desire in this world. If someone desires to engage in bhajan, then they must be like this. This instruction is for all levels of devotees, and according to one's level, one will be able to do this. In the Yugal Gita, we find, Aho Saki, we are unable to do this. Day and night our minds are restless. We are not able to keep our eyes closed, and we are also constantly conversing. We are unable to remain silent. The swans and cranes can go near to Krishna and receive his direct darshan, but we cannot get such a good opportunity. They are certainly of a higher class than us." This is the gopis' Uttam Adhikari vision. Even though their eyes remain open solely because they are always searching for Krishna, and even though they are unable to remain silent solely because they are always speaking about Krishna, they are considering everyone else to be more fortunate than themselves, and they are taking instruction from everything and everyone. Sanatana Goswami also gives another meaning to this verse being discussed. These birds, being attracted by the sound of Krishna's flute, came near him, but then they too could not remain silent. Very softly they chanted, "Krishna, Krishna, Krishna," and although they closed their eyes, their minds could not be controlled because waves of ecstasy were flowing inside them. Krishna attracted the gopis in the night by playing the flute. They stood before him silently. Some of them may have even closed their eyes, but does that mean that their minds were peaceful? On the contrary, countless varieties of bhav were churning in their hearts. If anyone goes near Krishna, will they be able to remain silent? All the time they will be singing either Krishna Katha or Krishna Nam. And will they be able to keep their eyes closed? They will be looking here and there to find the place from which the hypnotic flute sound has come. And will their minds remain steady? Their minds will certainly become even more restless in a state of divine ecstasy. Prayo Bhatamba Viga Muneyo Vaneshmin Krishnek Shiktam Tad Uditam Kala Venugitam Aruhya Ye Druma Bhujan Ruchira Pravalan Shrinvanti Milita Drisho Vigatenya Vacha. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:21-14 and Brihat Bhagavatamrita 2:7-115. O friend, the birds of Vrindavan are actually sages. They have taken positions on the branches of trees which have new and fresh leaves, from where they can easily have darshan of Sri Krishna. Sitting there and hearing the sweet vibration of his flute, they close their eyes and become immersed in divine bliss. Krishna and Baladev were decorated as if they were dancing actors entering an arena to give a performance. They were adorned with forest flowers and jumped about like young deer. This verse says, Vigatanaya Vacha. The birds became silent, which corresponds to what was mentioned in the previous verse. Krishna played the flute very beautifully, and at once all the peacocks gathered together. They were sitting in the kadamba trees on the top of the mountain, but at once they came down to the meadow to be near Krishna. Then so many different varieties of birds came near and watched as Krishna was playing the flute, and the peacocks were dancing. At that time, seeing through the eyes of Bhav, the gopis spoke this verse. In great astonishment they said, Prayo Bhatamba. Amba generally means mother, but does that mean they were speaking to Yashoda? Will all of these sentiments come to them when they are before Mother Yashoda? No, that bhav will be constrained. The sentiments of Vatsalya and Madhurya are completely opposed to one another, and neither can remain in the other's presence. So here, Amba means they are addressing another Saki. O Saki, the birds of this forest are actually munis, because upon hearing the sweet melody Krishna is playing on the flute, they have closed their eyes and are simply remaining silent. They have descended to the trees of the meadow and are sitting on the branches in such a way that there is no obstacle to their seeing Krishna, and where Krishna can also glance at them affectionately. Druma Bhujan means the branches of trees, and can also refer to the tree of the Vedas. The Vedic tree has thousands of long branches, and seated on certain branches, according to their classification, are karmis, jnanis, yogis, and tapasvis. The vulture is seating where there are no leaves, and the coal is seated where the mango buds are drooping. Eating these soft buds and leaves, it sings, Kuhu, Kuhu. The peacocks mostly sit on the tops of the kadamba trees, and they are very beautiful in appearance and very good dancers. Among the Vedic branches are also seated various kinds of munis. Seated on one branch is Patanjali Rishi, on another is Jaimini Rishi, and on another is Gautam Rishi. But the birds of Vrindavan are different from them, and are sitting on which branch of the allegorical Vedic tree? The branch where the fruit which has no seed, the ripened fruit of the Puranas and all scriptures, where this can be found. That ripened fruit is the Srimad Bhagavatam, and sitting on this branch, they can taste the Bhagavatam, have the darshan of Krishna, and Krishna can affectionately glance at them. So the gopis are saying, certain munis have become birds in Vrindavan, and upon hearing the beautiful melody from Krishna's flute, these munis have become silent and are sitting quietly with controlled minds. Just see how fortunate they are and how unfortunate we are. Being birds, they can hear the melody of Krishna's flute and approach him and feel so much ananda. But we can't listen to his flute or go near him. If we could become koals or parrots or any other bird and go to hear Krishna playing the flute at Govardhan and seeing the peacocks dancing, then our lives would become meaningful. Danya sma muda gatayo piharinya eta ya nanda nandanam upata vichitra vesham akaranye venyu ranitam saha Krishna saraha pujam dadur virachitam pranayavalokai. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.21.11 and Brihad Bhagavatamrita 2.7.116. Those ignorant deer are also fortunate, because accompanied by their husbands, they are standing motionlessly and listening to the vibration of Krishna's flute. It is as if they are offering puja to the gorgeously attired son of Nanda with their loving glances. The gopis' meditation became diverted, and again their internal vision was directed towards another group of living entities. They classified the bees as more fortunate than themselves, the swans and cranes as superior to the bees, the birds who reside on land as more fortunate than the water birds, and the deer as superior to the birds. Most fortunate of all are these deer, because not only have they at once approached Krishna, and not only have they received his loving glance with their eager eyes, but in their exchange of glances was the most affection. Mudha gatayo. People call deer foolish. Because the deer easily falls into traps, they are considered foolish as a species. With some simple allurement, they can be easily captured. We have heard that sometimes hunters have someone play a flute very sweetly, and being attracted, the deer will come and fall into a trap. But the gopis say, we don't consider the deer to be foolish at all. Hearing the sound of Krishna's flute and seeing his gorgeous dress, they have approached him. Upata vichitra vesham means Krishna is decorated with forest flowers and leaves such as the fragrant mango leaf. He is adorned with red powder in various places and has the designs of spiders drawn on his cheeks, and upon the body of Govardhan he appears more beautiful than millions of ornaments. Saha Krishna Saraha means the female deer were searching here and there for Krishna, and their husbands were following behind them to protect them. Pujang dadur virachitam pranayavalokai means that they gazed towards Krishna's beautiful face with great love, and it was as if they were offering puja to him with their sidelong glances. Upon seeing this, and how affectionately Krishna also glanced at them, seeing how much mutual love there was between them, the gopis said, they have received such a wonderful opportunity, but where is such an opportunity for us? Can we approach Krishna and offer archan to him with our eyes? We are not so fortunate. If after leaving these bodies we could become female deer, then we could receive such an opportunity and our lives would become meaningful. Thus ends Chapter 6 of Bhakti Rasayana. Chapter 7. The animals of Braj are stunned. Garvascha Krishna Mukha Nirgata Venugita Piyusam Utapita Karana Pitai Pipantya Sarvaha Snutastana Paya Kalavaha Sma Tashtur Govindam Atmani Drishasru Kala Sprishantya. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:21-13 and Brihat Bhagavatamrita 2:7-117. In order to drink the nectarian vibration of the flute song emanating from the lotus mouth of Sri Krishna, the cows have raised their ears. The grass which they were chewing just remains in their mouths. The milk begins to drip from their udders. The calves at once stop drinking their mother's milk, and as they embrace Krishna within their hearts, tears of love begin to glide down their faces. The gopis are conversing about Krishna in their homes during the daytime. But we are different. Upon awakening in the morning, we just begin thinking about how to solve all of our worldly problems. Except for a very few persons, no one has the faith or the free time to take Harinam. Or even if someone has some faith and time, then we don't chant in the way we should. Sadhaks should learn from the lives of the gopis, upon whom awakening in the morning begin meditating on Krishna, which means that they begin burning in separation from Krishna. Then they bathe and decorate themselves. For whom? Only for Krishna. The theme of their conversation is, how can we meet Krishna? How can we serve him? Then they go to Nandagram and receive his darshan and to cook for him. When Krishna goes to the forest for the day, they return to their homes and converse about him for the remainder of the day. In each group, one gopi will be speaking, and so many other gopis will be listening, and there are thousands of these groups. According to their particular natures, they are seated in groups and are singing about Krishna Lila. We take our mala and sit to chant, but our minds wander here and there. Then another devotee comes and sits near us, and we begin conversing with him about this or that. We abandon our Harinam, and he leaves it also. But the gopis aren't like this. One gopi says to another, "Aho, from the lotus mouth of Krishna, the sound of the flute has emerged. It has crossed the entire Brahmand, crossed Siddhaloka, Vaikuntha, Ayodhya, Mathura and Dwarka, and has now entered Vrindavan." While grazing, the cows hear this hypnotic vibration and at once raise their ears. The melody of Krishna's flute is like celestial nectar, and it is as if they are drinking that nectar through their ears. And the grass, which they have taken in their mouths moments before, is just remaining there. They aren't swallowing it, and it isn't coming back out of their mouths either. They are just standing motionlessly and listening. And when the calves, who are drinking their mother's milk, hear the sound of Krishna's flute, the milk which they had drawn out remains in their mouths. Usually it is swallowed immediately, but at that time it just remains in their mouths and then gradually begins to glide down from the corners of their mouths. What to speak of just these cows and calves? All the inhabitants of Braj have become absorbed in the melody of Krishna's flute. But we are not so fortunate. These cows and calves are all shedding tears of prem, and sometimes even the clouds shed tears of prem for Krishna as well. But it is our great misfortune that we are so hard-hearted that we don't leave our homes at once and go to where Krishna is playing his flute and become equally spellbound. Because we are afraid of being disgraced in society, we are holding our patience and not going there, considering that there are too many obstacles. But if someday the sound of the flute really enters our hearts, then at once our patience will fly away and we will immediately run to Krishna. If we could give up these bodies right now and take birth as calves, that would be very good. Then whenever we would hear the sound of Krishna's flute, we would go there at once. We would be entirely under his protection, and while gazing at him, we would forget everything else. In this way, the gopis are speaking. Just see the nature of their condition, their feelings, for receiving the darshan of Krishna and for hearing the melody of his flute. A sadhak should have such vipralamba bhav in his heart, and then he will be engaging in real bhajan. If one's sadhan is established on knowledge of tattva, and he becomes free from the tendencies of karma, gyan, laziness, madness, criticizing other devotees, aparad and anarthas, then Bhagavan will not be far away from him. Bhagavan is always just behind us, not far. Paramatma and Atma are always together, they are not separate. Krishna and our very souls are together within us, but at present we are not seeing him because we don't have sufficient faith. If a person is crying out from afar, is there any friend or relative who won't come to his aid? Even if there is a son who has given his mother great difficulty, even to the point of trying to kill her, when he calls out in pain, will his mother not come to his aid? Are there any parents anywhere who could possibly ignore the pleas of their offspring? Perhaps only if they don't hear them. But Krishna is already nearby, and if we call out to him, will he not hear? He is always very near us inside our hearts. If we call him sincerely, is it possible that he won't hear us? Will Krishna not hear if we loudly call out to him? At present we don't have sufficient faith, but when we pray from deep within our heart with great faith and tears falling from our eyes, Gopinath, Mama Nivedano Suno, will he not hear it? Certainly he will, otherwise his name would have to be changed. When we have this bhav, then what we are engaged in can easily be called bhajan. Vrinda sho vrajavrisha mriga gava, venu vadya krita chetasa arat, danta dasta kavala drita karna, nidrita likita chitram ivasham. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.35.5 and Brihat Bhagavatamrita 2.7.118. Hearing the vibration of Sri Krishna's flute, the bulls, cows and deer of Vrindavan approach him. Unable to swallow the grass which they have taken in their mouths, they stand silently with their ears upraised and appear like animals in a painting. The previous verse is from the Venu Gita, and this verse is from the Yugal Gita. Hey Saki, hearing the sound of Krishna's flute and seeing his attractive form, the cows, bulls and deer of Braj have become stunned and forgotten everything. They have abruptly stopped grazing, and the grass which they were chewing merely remains within their mouths. They have lifted up their tails and raised their eyes, trying to discern from which direction that sound has come. When they realize the direction from which it has come, they slowly proceed until they come near to Krishna. It is as if the vibration of the flute has entered through their ears, stolen their hearts, and again excited their bodies. Therefore, what can they do? They must follow that sound until they are near Krishna. And since their hearts are no longer within them, they appear like motionless animals in a painting. Krishna's flute song has stolen their hearts, and feeling themselves possessionless, they have approached him as if begging alms. Drita Karana. These animals' ears generally droop down, but upon hearing the music of Krishna's flute, they raised them. At first they were listening, but then they reflectively turned their ears away from that sound so that it couldn't enter. Why? They were thinking, we won't allow this sound to enter into our hearts, because then it will steal our hearts and may even steal away our very lives. We may die, and therefore we won't allow this vibration to enter. Krishna's appearance and the vibration of his flute are like nectar and poison simultaneously. Vishamrita ekatra milana. It cannot be discerned whether Krishna Prem is nectar or poison. Just as when ice is placed in our hand, it feels as if it is burning. We can't tell if our hand is burning or freezing. Similarly, coming in contact with Krishna Prem, we can't discern whether we are feeling ananda or sadness. Saccharin has a bitter taste, but if you mix it with water, it becomes sweet. And if you suck on a gooseberry, at first it seems sour, but when you get the juice, it becomes sweet. Like this, externally, Krishna Prem appears to be full of great sadness, and sometimes internally it may even feel something like sadness, but it is really the greatest happiness. So these cows closed their ears, and when upon opening them a little the vibration of the flute entered, they felt concerned for their very lives. They didn't know whether to accept or reject it. In the same way, some people say, "My friend, there is no need for all this bhakti. Those who have bhakti actually have no happiness. Even in the stage of sadhana, they are crying. They think, by going to engage in bhajan, I have made all my family members cry, and I am no longer able to live with them. And look at what the composers of the scriptures have written. Nayanam galadasru darya, vadanam gadgada rudaya gira, Pulake nichitam vapu kada tava nama grihane bhavishyati. Shikshastakam 6. O Prabhu, when will my eyes be filled with a stream of tears? When will my voice choke up? And when will the hairs of my body stand erect in ecstasy as I chant your holy name? They are praying for the day when they will never stop crying, and they desire to always be wailing in Krishna Prem. Actually, it is not really such a surprising thing that they desire to cry in the stage of sadhan, because without a child crying, his mother will not feed him milk. All right, so they are crying in the stage of sadhan, but just look then at the stage of perfection. Uddhav and Akrura were perfected souls, and we have heard that when they saw Krishna's footprints on the ground, they began wailing, and even fell down and began writhing on the ground. And until the gopis met Krishna again at Kurukshetra, they were always crying. And when they again parted, they cried even more, even though they were perfected souls. Therefore all of this bhakti is just an unnecessary commotion. But to persons who say this, we say, Ye Atma Suprasidati, Bhagavatam 126. Bhakti completely satisfies the soul with ananda. Without engaging in bhajan, no one can be happy. Churning water will never produce ghee. Even if all the people of the universe say that churning water produces ghee, will it happen? Never. And without engaging in Hari Bhajan, no one can attain happiness or cross over this ocean of material existence. This point cannot be refuted any more than the fact that the sun will definitely set in the west. This is confirmed in the Vedas, Ramayana, and all the Puranas, and it cannot be refuted. Meeting with Krishna and separation from him are simultaneously like nectar and poison, and their characteristics cannot be distinguished from one another. They become one and the same thing. Therefore these animals of Braj become bewildered and concerned for their very lives, while at the same time the gopis are saying, in Braj we are the most unfortunate. Everyone else has become filled with bliss by receiving the darshan of Krishna, but we must remain here in our homes. Thus ends Chapter 7 of Bhakti Rasayana. Chapter 8. The Gopis glorify the Pulinda girl. During the daytime, the Gopis are sitting together in their homes and revealing their inner sentiments to one another. One says, after leaving this body, I desire to take birth as a deer, and then easily I will receive the darshan of Krishna. Another says, I desire to become a cow or a calf. Who stops them from approaching Krishna? Hearing the vibration of Krishna's flute, I will approach him and become spellbound, just as the cows and calves do. In an unrestricted fashion, I will receive his darshan. In this way, some of the gopis desire to become clouds, and others desire to become bees, birds, or rivers. Now in this verse, from the end of the Venugit, they will begin to speak about those in human form. Purna Pulindya Urugaya Padabjarag. Shri Kunkumena Daita Stana Manditena Tad Darshana Smara Rajas Trina Rusitena Lampantya Anena Kuchesu Jahas Tad Adim. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:21-17. Sri Brihat Bhagavatamrita 2:7-119. O Saki, we consider the Pulinda girls who collect grass and wood to be greatly fortunate, because by spreading the kumkum which lies upon the grass on their faces and bodies, the desires which arise in their hearts from seeing that very kumkum are pacified. In reality, that kumkum is from the breasts of Srimati Radhika, and at the time of enjoying pastimes with Sri Krishna, it becomes smeared on his lotus feet. Then, as they wander in the forest, it falls from his feet onto the grass. In previous times, in Braj, there was a tribe called the Pulinda, who would construct small huts which they would live in for only a short time and then move on. Their women would collect wood or dry plants and sell them to maintain themselves, or they would bring water for people. They were also artists, so they would travel to people's homes selling their craftwork. The gopis are saying, "Aho, all of the living entities we have described so far are certainly fortunate, but this girl of the Pulinda tribe is Purna, completely fortunate." Why? In the morning, arriving in the valleys of Govardhan to collect wood, she notices that kumkum is mixed with the dew on the grass. Seeing this, intense eagerness to meet Krishna arose in her heart, because remembrance of a previous incident came to her. The day before, in a kunj of Govardhan, Krishna and his friends were playing dice with the gopis. There were two parties, Krishna's party and Srimati Radhika's party, and the main players were Krishna and Srimati. Subal and Madhumangal and others were on Krishna's side, and Lalita, Vishaka and the other Sakis were on Radhika's side. Krishna put up something as a bet and was defeated. Then Radhika said, "What will you bet now? You should stake your flute." Krishna replied, "I will stake my flute, but what will you put up? You should stake an equal valuable thing. I value my flute like my very life, but I will stake it if you stake something of equal value." Radhika said, "Then you please say what I should stake." Krishna said, "All right, you should stake one of the friends of your Sakis." Being very pleased, Radhika agreed to this and whispered to one of her Sakis, "In the village nearby is a girl of the Pulinda tribe. Go and call her." They brought the girl there, and entering that assembly, the poor girl felt very shy. She felt ashamed because she was of a lower class. So reluctantly, she sat in the back. Seeing her, Krishna said, "I will not stake my flute for her. What is the meaning of this?" Then all of the gopis began laughing and clapping. At that time, this Pulinda girl saw the beauty of Krishna. Before it was described how all of the birds and animals became spellbound by seeing Krishna. But this girl considered herself a dasi of Radhika, so upon seeing Krishna, she became even more spellbound. So the next morning, while this aborigine girl was collecting wood and plants, she saw kumkum lying on the grass, and automatically she knew where it had come from, the breasts of Radha. Are the birds, deer, or aborigines of Vrindavan ordinary? For instance, how do they know Krishna is coming in their direction when he is taking the cows out for grazing? They all recognize his intoxicating fragrance. It is expected that the gopis would naturally recognize this fragrance, but even the birds and animals are familiar with it. When the Pulinda girl saw this kumkum, such intense desire to meet Krishna arose in her heart, and she was unable to restrain it. When Krishna is departing Nanda Bhavan to take the cows out to graze in the forest for the day, all of the men, women and children of Braj assemble along the road, to catch a glimpse of him. They are all standing along the path, and Krishna is coming on his way playing the flute. At that time, there are also some young girls who come to see him, who are in Shantarati. There are many types of Shantarati, such as Samanya, general, and Swacha. The aboriginal girl is Swacha, which means that Rati had arisen inside her, but not Sthayi Rati, her permanent internal sentiment. After a seed is planted, a creeper begins to grow from it. At that time, its leaves have begun to appear, but have not completely developed. And from looking at the leaves, you cannot ascertain what kind of plant it is. But when the leaves become full, then you can tell what kind of plant it is. It is the same with Rati, and the Pulinda girl's Rati is described as being Swacha. Whenever she sees Krishna reciprocating with his devotees in a particular mellow, she desires to share that same mellow with him. For instance, when she sees Mother Yashoda nurturing Krishna, reciting mantras so that no harm will come to him, and wiping his face with the end of her sari, she becomes spellbound. Without blinking, she just gazes at him, thinking, "I would like to be his mother, just like her." This is Swacha Rati. Then a little later, she sees Krishna playing his flute, and running, playing, and eating with his friends with great pleasure. And then she again becomes spellbound, thinking, "I would like to become a Sakha, so I can run and play with him like this." Then later she sees Krishna standing in his threefold bending posture, playing the flute and gazing at the gopis. He is shivering, his crown is tilting to one side, and his yellow shawl is slipping down. Seeing this, she thinks, "I would like to become a friend of Radha, and see him with a similar sentiment." This is called Swacha Rati. So this Pulinda girl, in comparison to the creepers, bees, clouds, and deer, is the best of all. As a result of witnessing Krishna performing his pastimes, and especially from seeing Krishna just the day before, she has gradually come to desire to enter the camp of Radha's servitors, to be able to serve him as they do. Therefore, when she saw the kumkum on top of the grass, Smara Rujas, intense desire to meet Krishna, arose in her. If eagerness to meet Krishna arises in the birds and animals, then it is even more natural that it would arise in her. If such eagerness develops within a sadhak, then it can be said that he is really engaged in sadhan bhajan. But presently we have no such eagerness to meet him. Instead, we are greatly determined to obtain material enjoyment. As yet, we have no real eagerness for bhakti, but we should endeavor to obtain this eagerness, because it is the root, the very life of bhajan. The Pulinda girl looked at the kumkum and began analyzing it. Where has this kumkum come from? Has it come from the feet of Krishna or the feet of the gopis? Kumkum is not applied to Krishna, only the gopis apply kumkum to their bodies. So how could it have turned up here? This is difficult to understand. Somehow I know that it could have only come from Krishna's feet. But how did it get on Krishna's feet? Oh, I understand. Fearing that Krishna's feet would be harmed by pebbles and thorns as he roams about, the gopis sometimes place his feet on their breasts. Therefore, this kumkum must have come from Krishna's feet as he returned home from his rendezvous with the gopis. Understanding the situation, she at once became intoxicated, placed some of this kumkum on her head, and by spreading it all over her whole body, her calm was pacified. The Bhagavatam says that calm, or lust, exists in the heart of the conditioned soul like a disease. This fire of lust burns inside the conditioned soul as he turns away from Bhagavan and casts his vision in the direction of Maya. The conditioned soul becomes attracted to the opposite sex, to wealth, and to being praised by others. Some leave material life and take up residence in a mutt to engage in bhajan, and even attain a little ruchi for taking Harinam and hearing Harikatha, then fall down and leave. Why? They were attracted to Maya, were they not? Certainly they were very attracted. If they had such strong attraction for Bhagavan, they wouldn't have entered the material world in the first place. The attraction of Maya is very, very strong, and in this connection there is the example of Kala Krishnadas, a boy of 16 or 17 years old. Nityananda Prabhu, Rai Ramananda, and Swarup Damodar each said to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "Please don't go to South India alone. I will accompany you." Mahaprabhu said, "If I take any of you, then the others will say, 'You are taking him but not me.' Then I will be at fault, so I will go alone." "All right then, we will send someone whom you are not acquainted with. This simple and honest son of a Brahmana. Keep him with you, because how your mind changes we cannot understand. Sometimes you forget everything, even your bodily needs. You require copins and a water pot, so who will carry them? Sometimes you throw them somewhere and proceed onwards, and sometimes when you are crying out, 'Where is the Lord of my life?' you roll on the ground, and even if your clothes were to come off, you wouldn't even notice. Crying and crying, you just proceed onward. You will need someone to fetch water and beg alms for you, so please take this Kala Krishnadas." Mahaprabhu agreed, and Kala Krishnadas accompanied him until they reached Kanyakumari, where there was a group of gypsies called Bhattaharis who would travel here and there with their bulls, donkeys, and belongings. Their business was to lure young boys and girls to join them. How? They would show boys a girl and girls a boy. Once they had lured someone, they would immediately move on, and the people of the village would not know where their son or daughter had gone. In this way, they would set traps for innocent boys and girls, and there was a very large group of these gypsies nearby where Mahaprabhu was staying. One day, Mahaprabhu went out begging, leaving Kala Krishnadas sitting underneath a tree. One of these gypsies approached him, and after speaking with him for some time said, "It is as if you have been my son for a very long time. Look, we will marry you to this girl, and you will live with her very happily. Within our tribes, you will become a king." The poor boy was lured, and decided to go with them. When Mahaprabhu returned and didn't see him, he thought, "Where has that boy gone? Oh, those gypsies must have taken him." Mahaprabhu entered their party, and locating Kala Krishnadas, grabbed him by the seeker, saying, "You rascal, you left me and came here?" He had to forcibly drag back Kala Krishnadas, who didn't even desire to leave there. So just see how, if one is associating with Bhagavan himself, Maya can attract him. So what to speak of us? This Maya is very dangerous, and escaping its many trappings is very difficult. And even if someone can abandon everything, even their wife and family, still they may not be able to leave the desire for Pratishta. It is as if the desire for it runs in our veins. But if we receive some special mercy from Guru, the Vaishnavas and Bhagavan, then we will be able to abandon that desire. Otherwise we won't easily be able to leave it. We should make our own effort to leave it, but we must also receive their mercy. Both. Vikriditam brajavadurbi idam cha Vishnu, shradanvito nishunyad ata varanyedya. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-39. If one faithfully hears the 5 chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam which describe rasa, Krishna's transcendental pastimes with the gopis, then the heart disease of lust will be destroyed. But it must be heard with real faith, which is received from Guru and the Vaishnavas. If one enjoys reading novels and considering these pastimes between Krishna and the gopis to be mere fiction, then it will not have the desired success. Previously, there was this lust in the Pulinda girl's heart, but by the mercy of the great Bhav of the gopis, who are Krishna's Hladini Shakti, all anarthas can be destroyed. Therefore that kumkum was the gopis, and having been smeared on Krishna's feet, it now lay on the grass, invested with some powerful Shakti. Having come in contact with both the gopis and Krishna, it had become so powerful. How much Shakti can be in foot dust? Once Ramachandra was walking along in a forest, and he came across Gautama Rishi, who had cursed his wife, Ahalya, to become a stone. When Ram touched that stone with his feet, she immediately assumed her original form as a very beautiful goddess. She circumambulated him, offered him prayers, and then bid him farewell, and left with her husband. So this kumkum of the gopis, mixed with the dust of Krishna's feet, will have enormous Shakti. In this Pulinda girl's heart was the disease of lust, but upon touching this kumkum, her heart was made supremely pure and was invested with Krishna Prem. Her feelings became like those of the gopis, and following them, she began serving Krishna. So in this verse, the gopis are saying, for an aborigine girl, she is so fortunate, even more so than the female deer. What would they understand of this kumkum? But she has understood that this kumkum is not ordinary. By touching it, the amorous pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna arise in one's heart. If a sadhak applies the kumkum of these descriptions to himself through hearing them, even in abhas, the semblance of real hearing, then his heart will also be supremely purified, and all his material desires will be destroyed. Here the gopis are actually singing their own glories, but they're not thinking that way. Whose kumkum was this? Their own. Yet here, by the influence of Yoga Maya, they are forgetting that, and singing the glories of the aborigine girl. A devotee is one who considers himself extremely fallen. If we are thinking, I am an advanced devotee, and better than others, I can attract people by giving various meanings of Sanskrit verses. I possess so much bhakti, and so many people are showing me respect. Then we have not yet become devotees. When even a little bhakti has entered someone's heart, then humility will certainly be there. Where there is no humility, we can understand that there is no bhakti. He who has become a better devotee is he whose humility has increased. Where humility exists in its full form, there bhakti will also be in its full form. And where there is no humility, there will be not even a trace of bhakti. More humility is found in a Madhyam Adhikari than in a Kanistha Adhikari. And more humility exists in the Uttam Adhikari devotee than in the Madhyam Adhikari devotee. Then it is found more in the residents of Golok Braj than in the general class of Uttam Adhikaris. And amongst the Brajavasis, more humility can be seen in the gopis. And amongst them, the most humility is found in Srimati Radhika. She is the pinnacle of humility. In whomever she detects even a trace of bhakti, she considers that person worthy of her reverence. She offers prayers to that person, thinking, I should try to become like them. This is the vision of an Uttam devotee. O Kamsa is fortunate. In order to kill Kamsa, Bhagavan has come in such an attractive form. He won't kill Kamsa's soul, but he will show him mercy by releasing him from his body. At the same time, he has bestowed on this world pastimes which are full of unlimited purifying potency. If not for Kamsa, then Krishna would not have appeared, and his glories would not have become known. Only because of fear of Kamsa, Krishna was taken to Gokul. Then he returned to Mathura only to kill Kamsa, and then he left for Dwarka because of Kamsa. Why? Jarasanda's daughters were married to Kamsa, so when Kamsa was killed, they went crying to their father. For some reason, Krishna has killed your son-in-law. Taking an army, Jarasandha attacked Krishna 17 times. So Krishna thought, every day there is fighting here, so we should go away from here. And he left for Dwarka. It was all because of Kamsa. Kamsa was not an ordinary person. That is why a Mahabhagavat, Vaishnava like Narad, would regularly go to see him. A Madhyam Adhikari may feel some hatred for Kamsa, but an Uttam Adhikari won't. In a similar way, the gopis are considering the Pulinda girl to be superior to themselves and are glorifying her. If we could take birth as a Pulinda girl, then our mother, father and brothers would not restrict us from seeing Krishna during the daytime. We could go to the forest every day and collect wood. But because we belong to a higher class of family, this is not possible for us now. If a sadhak is to enter into bhakti, he must have this humility, and when he does, he can be really called a sadhak. In the verse we are discussing, why does it say Shri Kunkum? It can mean that kunkum which carries some special splendor, or it can mean reddish, like Krishna's lotus feet. Krishna is of shyam complexion, but the palms of his hands and the soles of his feet are a deep reddish color. This kumkum is of the same hue, and when it came in contact with Krishna's feet, it assumed some special splendor, and also some special shakti. If food is prepared for and offered to Krishna, his shakti enters into it. Krishna's full shakti is in Mahaprasad. Upon being touched by Krishna's mouth, it becomes Satchidananda, just like him. So before the gopis used this kumkum, it was not Shri, but coming in contact with Krishna's lotus feet, all the shakti and splendor of those lotus feet entered into it, and it became extraordinarily beautiful. And where did that kumkum come from originally? Daita Stana Manditena, from Radhika, and therefore it can also be said that it became Shri from her touch. But seeing that kumkum lying on the grass in the morning, smara rujas, lust arose in the heart of the Pulinda girl. But when she smeared that kumkum on her body, did her lust increase or diminish? All the jivas in Vrindavan, the insects, birds, animals and people, are always restless to see Krishna. And when they see him, does their eagerness for him increase or diminish? It certainly increases, but when they receive Krishna's touch, then they may become a little peaceful. Therefore, this Shri Kumkum is non-different from Krishna himself. Upon seeing it, the eagerness of the Pulinda girl increased, but upon spreading it all over her body, she became fully satisfied and once again peaceful. In speaking this verse, the gopis considered the Pulinda girl to be Purna, to have become completely fulfilled, even more so than the birds and animals of Braj. She was not as divinely beautiful as the gopis, and was unqualified to participate in amorous pastimes with Krishna. But in considering her to be more fortunate than themselves, the gopis are exhibiting a symptom of Madan, which is the upper stage of Mahabhav. This is when they consider an unqualified person or even an inanimate object to be superior to themselves, and even give an explanation of why they feel this way. The flute is an inanimate object, but because it always resides at Krishna's lips and never becomes separated from him, and even though it is of male gender, the gopis feel that it is more fortunate than them. Their sentiment towards the flute is that it is like a second wife of Krishna. So here, this feeling from the upper stage of Mahabhav has arisen in the gopis towards the Pulinda girl. It is not possible for other devotees to have this